In a gloomy, empty, and broken down room, a boy wakes up without any clothes to a scared woman who seems teary and runs away as soon as the boy tries to talk to her, which also confuses the boy as to why that happened. The boy then wonders why even he is in that room, and looks around to find a dark statue of a weird and terrifying creature. He tries to remember about what he last did, which was that he got kicked out of his house by his mom for being useless, and so he went to a shrine, a place of worship, to play a game. He sits in under a shade to avoid the bright sunlight. However, he appears to be angry at the fact that he is not able to do some upgrades in his game. Annoyed at the fact, he decides to cheat at the game, and as he grabs some sort of disk to change the game data, he hears a voice that calls upon an evil god. Shocked, he looks around to see where the voice came from when suddenly, he somehow gets separated from his actual body, who is still confused about the situation, and gets flown away shouting in even more confusion. The separated body of the boy wakes up in a very dark place with the same voice as before telling him to ask for a power, and calls the boy the evil god of calamity. Not knowing what is going on, the boy still asks for a power that lets him change things in any games he plays to make it more fun, which the voice says that it will give it to him. Some sort of gas-like thing appears in front of him, with bright light, and the boy is taken to the old room from earlier. Being without clothes for too long, the boy starts to feel cold, and so he grabs the clothing set in front of him and wears it, even though he is still worried about the voices and the fact that this is not a dream. He then walks out wearing it and finds himself in a fantasy world, which makes him shocked and curious. The boy decides to move forward and look for people that might know about things here, when an old man and the same scared girl behind him approach the boy and ask him who he is coming out of the evil god's shrine. The boy calms the two people in front of him and tells them that he is a Japanese man named Tagami Yuyusuke, and asks the old man if he understands his language. The old man says he can, and wonders if Japanese is a tribe from where Tagami is from, which makes Tagami realize that there is no Japan here. Tagami tells them that he was brought here by a voice that called him the evil god, which scares the girl even more as she is now sure that Tagami is the evil god of destruction. She asks him if he is here for destruction, but Tagami refuses it and tells them that it was only the voice that talked about him being the evil god, when in reality he is just a human. The old man then tells him that there was a prediction that an evil god is to come in this world and bring destruction, and points towards the shrine from where Tagami came out of. The old man further talks about how there are 4 gods in this world, namely Volnar the god of fire, Shalnar the god of water, Zalnar the god of earth, and Vilnar the god of wind, who protect the people of Calcio, and the color of each person's hair and eyes tells which god is protecting them. Which is why Tagami, who has black hair and eyes, is probably protected by the evil god, as black is his color. The old man, Zashel, introduces himself as a doctor of the nearby village Rufk, and the girl's name is Sun. He invites Tagami to his home to talk about more things. Sun, the girl, aggressively refuses to bring Tagami back to their house, which Zashel understands because Tagami is from another world and might have some unknown disease that can end this world. Tagami, on the other hand, acts completely normal like a human, complaining about his new way of clothing, which makes Zashel think that he is unusually calm. But suddenly, Tagami stops and stares at a floating screen of the same game he could not customize before, which makes him wonder he is really in a dream. However, he quickly understands that the sound he heard before was telling him that he got an item that he can customize, and starts working on it, while Zashel and Sun wonder what is wrong with him. While Tagami customizes his item without anything holding him back, Zashel gets a feeling of god-like powers from him, similar to theirs, and becomes watchful of Tagami. Tagami finishes his customization of what looks like a shirt and carries the action out even if it is not real. But his clothes suddenly disappear and he gets a black shirt that falls to the ground. While Tagami is happy it works, Sun gets embarrassed to look at him without clothes as it reveals his entire body, and Tagami quickly covers himself up as he forgot getting new clothes in games take away his old clothes. While Tagami is changing into his new clothes, Zashel asks him what kind of power or divine art that was, as he has never seen clothes being changed like that. But Tagami appears to not know anything about it, which confirms it for Zashel that Tagami is not from Calcio. After walking for a while, they finally reach the village Rufk, which takes away all of Tagami's tiredness as he gets excited to see a village that looks like it is from an RPG game. Zashel tells Tagami as they walk that he is a water artist, and so he became the village doctor. Tagami asks if this village is for those who do not have any powers, which Zashel confirms as he says that there are some people who are born without powers, while the other half gets powers from the four gods. Zashel says that some people with power treats the powerless like slaves, Sun being one of the victims. He adds that this is the way of the world, as the ones with powers are already higher in standings, but those with greater powers are even higher. They finally reach the home of Zashel, where he welcomes Tagami and gives him his shoes, while Sun runs around. Then she brings a bucket of water to clean the cuts on Tagami's feet from walking without shoes in the forest, but is still afraid of him. Tagami worries how this is going to be fixed, while Zashel starts to fix his feet. Zashel simply just touches Tagami's feet and fixes all the cuts on them, which surprises Tagami about how quick the treatment was. Zashel tells him that water arts give a person quick healing factor, and this also confirms the fact that divine arts even work on people from different worlds, and so they can use it as a defense if Tagami is the evil god. Tagami again denies him being the evil god. Zashel makes him aware that the prediction comes every 300 years, and so it is also about to be completed this time around. While Zashel still has his doubts about who Tagami really is, seeing how he acts so carefree and Sun is playful around him, it is not really a sign. Eating like there is no tomorrow, Tagami bites down on a lot of food on the table, until he is finally tired of eating as he is way too full to eat anymore. With a blown-up stomach, Tagami takes a deep breath and complains that he cannot eat everything at once to test to see what food of this new world can his body digest. Zashel agrees and moves on, saying that Tagami has eaten enough different items so food is not going to be a problem. Tagami then thinks about how he was brought to this world by a voice, and he is believed to be an evil god of calamity, even though he thinks he is not, but his power gives him some doubts. Someone from the village comes to the doctor, Zashel's house to get an item fixed by Tagami, which Dr. Zashel takes and asks Tagami to fix the item, who uses his power, which he has named as Customize, and very quickly fixes the items. He uses this power in this way to figure out and understand the use of it. Zashel conveys his amazement of how this ability works and suggests that this ability, if used right, can even change the world in a better way, as it is a new kind of power than the four divine arts they already have. Tagami then recaps about Dr. Zashel's ability, which is the water art, and how it can instantly fix any damage to a person. Then he explains how this village is for the people without these powers, and also how the four divine arts can be used to attack, help, or defend oneself. While Zashel and Tagami discuss the use of his ability and test it a few more times, Sun enters the room and is greeted by them. But she still seems a little afraid of Tagami. Tagami states his sadness that how Sun is still afraid of him. Zashel tells him that, while she is a really nice girl, it is her past that makes her distant like she is. Zashel then starts telling Tagami about Sun's past, as she is shown to be walking around, as a child, with her father, who is taking her to worship the evil god's shrine, as he jokingly tells her that the god punishes children who do not pray to him. This scares Sun a little bit, so she jumps on her father to hide, but he comforts her, saying that she is a good kid. Though this playful time comes to an end when they are stopped by two divine art users who on the spot attack Sun and her father for being people without power, just for fun. Sun's father pushes her away to protect her from the attack of the divine art users, but as she gets back up, she is stunned in place at the look of her father, who got hit in his stomach with blood all over him, as he tells her to run away in his last words. Seeing her father fall down on the ground lifeless, she drops to her knees and cries to her father very loudly. But even then she is not left alone, as one of the divine arts user again attack her with his powers, also giving her a very dangerous wound. Sun falls to the ground helplessly, but sees the doctor, Zashel, coming towards her and passes out, and the flashback ends. Tagami asks Zashel what happened afterwards, to which Zashel replied with that the two divine arts users, which were earth and wind users, tried to fight against him as they thought that Sun and her father were his slaves, but that was not the case. However, the earth arts user was captured, but the wind managed to escape. Zashel explains to Tagami that the reason they tried running is because earth and wind arts users are on the lower scale than the water arts on the power system, and attacking a higher power's slaves is a crime. This angers Tagami, who screams how even powerless people are people, but Zashel disappointingly tells him that only a few people share his ideas. Seeing Tagami's disappointed face, Zashel asks if his world was different in this regard, to which Tagami replies with that there were some weird people in his world as well, but none were treated as less than humans. Zashel thinks that Tagami's previous world sounds like a good place, while this story confirms it for Tagami that it really is a different world. While they finish up their chat and give the customer his repaired item back, Sun is seen picking up fruits and is greeted by an Aunt Bahana who asks why she is not with the doctor. Sun replies that the doctor is with Tagami, working on his divine arts, which makes her Aunt Bahana wonder if she is still afraid of Tagami, as Sun looks worried talking about him. Sun then replies that she knows that Tagami is a good person, but she is still scared as Tagami came out of the shrine of the evil god of calamity and his powers are different. Aunt Bahana lets out a sigh and tells Sun to not rush things and talk to Tagami slowly, which Sun agrees to. Sun thinks about asking Tagami about the food earlier, but also remembers his face from the start that looked dangerous. In the doctor's house, Dr. Zashel asks Tagami if he wants to visit the city to sell the items he has fixed, which interests Tagami. Zashel tells him that they are going to the capital Sank-Adiot of this country Fonclank. While Tagami gets ready for the travel, Zashel gives him a bag full of money of this world, which are crystals named after the 4 gods of the world. Volnar crystal is the most valuable kind, as 30 of the Filnar crystals make one of them. Looking at them with his powers, Tagami turned the Filnar crystal red, the color of the Vilnar crystals, which shocks Zashel, and he immediately asks Tagami to not let anyone else learn of this thing that he just did, while also giving him 8 more Filnar crystals to turn red. While they both are scheming, Sun comes back and greets both of them, but runs away the instant she tries to talk to Tagami as she still is afraid. Tagami is again disappointed about how much Sun hates him, while Zashel is happy with his bag full of crystals. On a spacious road, Tagami and Zashel travel to the capital city Sank-Adiot on their buggy. In the distance, they see a large castle which Zashel tells Tagami is the city they are going to, and this makes Tagami really excited. Zashel adds that as the population of this city grew, the levels of the castle also increased, which then turned into the lower levels for the common people, while the higher levels are for the people with higher power. The castle city has 4 levels, with the top level being the most luxurious and extremely amazing, and each level having the same type of houses, but their number decreasing as you go up the levels. The castle is called the Volet's Palace, where all the nobles live, and in of the windows on the top floor, there seems to be a girl sitting by it, on her comfy chair and a small table. She throws her book away and claims to be bored whilst yawning. This girl is the Princess Volet, one of the nobles of the fire artists, but has manners that are not fit for a noble. She sits in a very careless way, even though she is a lady, and complains to her servant, Krival, that she is bored. The servant Krival reminds her that she is a princess and a noble, so she should act like a respectable lady, but she does not like that as she further complains about her father, and the other civil servants being even more evil like the evil god's paintings. Krival asks her what painting she is talking about, so she tells him that it is a story that the shrine of the evil god has that black painting in it. Krival complains that how could she compare the supposed good nobles to such an evil, but Volet shuts him up, and claims how she misses Zashel. Volet's flashback then starts when she first heard about the evil god of calamity from Zashel, who told her that he is not a creature, neither a man. Volet asks him whether if he or her father can beat it, to which Zashel replies with that only someone with a pure heart can defeat that evil god. Innocently, Volet had promised Zashel that she will grow up as someone who is pure of heart so that she can protect them by defeating the evil god. Listening to this story, Krival shouts at Volet that she should not bring up Zashel, a weird person in his mind, so easily, which Volet questions because she knows that Zashel is a highly respected person in the kingdom, and is also really powerful, compared to even the water god. Krival thinks about how even the king told him to never disturb Zashel, and is very disturbed, so he tells Volet off that she should not talk about him so much as it might cause trouble for her and Zashel. But she denies it, saying that Zashel is not such a weak person to be affected by this. Meanwhile, in the city, amongst the market, Zashel and Tagami walk around with Tagami wearing a hoodie to cover his black hair, as it sticks out and people will definitely disturb them to ask question, seeing how his black hair and eyes are the color of the evil god. Though this does not bother Tagami, as he is excited to be able to live like a RPG character from the games he has played, and also the stuff he sees around him is full of a fantasy world he wanted to experience. Zashel buys a few extra plates for Tagami, telling him that he is now a part of his family, which makes Tagami a little shy as he is getting used to this new world, and Zashel appreciates his good nature. While they both are happily going around the city, Zashel suddenly sees that there is a disturbance in the crowd, and figures out that it is due to the royal people all coming on the streets. Tagami asks what is going on and how he knows, so Zashel tells him that royalty gives a unique feel which makes them easy to find even in crowds, which surprises Tagami. While Zashel prepares to take Tagami and quickly leave the city, Volet figures out the feel of Zashel and quickly runs over to him and grabs him all excitedly, surprising him with such a sudden meetup. Zashel jokingly asks her to be a little gentle when greeting him as he is old. But Volet tells him off that she has to because Zashel does not even visit the castle anymore. Zashel asks her to go back to the castle as it is late now and her father might be worried, but she denies it, saying that she is not a child anymore and would like to know Zashel better. Krival suddenly grabs her, shouting about how improper her behavior is, but Volet sticks to the idea of appealing to Zashel as she claims that she will look a lot better when her body becomes more desirable. Tagami, seeing all this, is weirded out by her behavior, but then Volet notices his weird feel, which Zashel tries to cover by saying that Tagami is just shy and cannot interact anymore, but Volet burns her hood off, which reveals his black hair and eyes. While Krival is scolding her to not use such a high level of magic on common people, Tagami angrily removes his burnt hood, revealing his hair, which immediately makes Volet and Krival shout about him being the evil god of calamity and how he might have come here to destroy the kingdom. Zashel and Tagami are left with no choice but to look hopeless. While everyone is still wondering how Tagami can be the evil god of calamity as he looks just like a human, Krival thinks that he can use this moment to capture Zashel and force him to reveal the real reason why the king gives him so much favor, as that is much more than a friend would do. He immediately asks his royal guards to arrest both Zashel and Tagami, which excites Volet for some reason. While they are surrounded, Tagami says to Zashel that he should tell him about people like this beforehand, which Zashel agrees to and claims that he never expected this to happen. Regardless, he will explain everything to Tagami after they escape from this situation. Zashel and Tagami, both worried about how they can escape this situation, with the royal guards surrounding them, try to find a way. Meanwhile, the guards hesitate to go along with Krival's order, as the king has told all of them that they have to leave Zashel alone, but Krival keeps forcing them to move forward with the arrest, while also being a little hesitant as he does not want to go against the king's orders. Volet then steps in, asking the guards and Krival to let her handle it, saying that she will talk it out in her own way with her father. While Volet cleverly thinks to herself that getting Zashel arrested would give her more time with him, and also Tagami's black hair and eyes are of interest to her, Krival is still on about arresting both of them. Zashel smartly points out the fact to Kreval that King Esphobus ordered everyone to leave him alone, and seeing how much of a loyal person Kreval is, he should not go against the orders of the king. This makes the guards and Kreval a little more mad, but stops them for a few moments, while Zashel further adds that the King Esphobus does not want him here anyways, so why drag him to the palace? While Tagami asks him to not add more fuel to the fire, Kreval points towards Tagami and asks Zashel as to why he brought him in the palace. Zashel calms down the situation by taking Tagami's name in front of everyone and disregards the theory of the evil god of calamity as just a rumor because it has not actually happened in their lifetime, to which even the guards agree. He also replies to Kreval's questions about why Tagami has black hair by saying that mixing all of the colors together gives you black, and so Tagami must be one of the rare people who are born with the powers of all four gods mixed in them, giving him black hair. He then whips up a false story about how Tagami's parents must have also felt that he is the evil god of calamity and thrown away in a shrine as a baby. He was then taken in by the nearby villagers, but because of his hair, he had to be hidden at the edge of the village. When Zashel was visiting another country to study about the evil god, he met Tagami and took him under his roof because the doctor also wanted to study about his weird feel that he gives. This story of his goes on for so long that it turns to night, and then Volet stops him due to getting frustrated and tired from hearing this story with very random details. While she is complaining, Tagami wonders that even Volet has a cute side to her when a king's messenger comes to the gathering and announces that the king has told them all to stop as they are all under watch. Volet quickly drops the idea to arrest Zashel and Tagami since her father would be furious with her, and leaves inviting Zashel to the palace sometimes. After being free of this problem, Zashel offers Tagami to get dinner, which he agrees to and also expresses his impress about Zashel's quick thinking lie about how he found him. But someone in the shadows heard them say this. Over dinner in a small shop, Zashel tells Tagami that he and King Esphobus were travel mates over 20 years ago, which surprises Tagami as he did not expect Zashel to be that close to the king. Zashel then adds that Esphobus was not king back then, but he also lacked motivation to be one. Zashel expresses his concerns that Esphobus is not a bad king in terms of controlling a country, but he falls short when faced with threats and violence from the other countries, like not focusing on border security when a neighboring country called the Blue Garden is using their city, Fortress City Paula's location to enter the country of Fonclank and ruin land, as they believe that having higher power because of strong divine arts should not be a thing. Tagami adds that this is bad, which Zashel agrees to and says that this normally is means for war, but Esphobus does not care, and even is faced with a problem of spies from other countries entering the palace to convert people to their sides. Tagami worries that this country might not last, but Zashel reassures him and takes him for a walk. Zashel then tells Tagami that he has orders to enter Blue Garden, and that he has been invited by them, which is why he stay away from the king, but regrets not using the earlier problem to his advantage. While Tagami worries that whether he should have known this fact, Zashel says that he only wonders what Tagami will do in this world, and what type of calamity is to come, and how people of different status deal with it. Zashel speaks that his choices may be the thing that brings destruction to the world, as he thinks about the fact that if Tagami is the calamity god, how will he judge the world to not destroy it, and asks Tagami to witness many parts of this world. In the next day, Zashel and Tagami sold almost all of their goods they brought, and now plan to return once they have a few items they need. Zashel tells Tagami to be aware of the overpricing in the market. Even though yesterday is over, Zashel worries that someone might still be keeping an eye on them due to the problem yesterday, and is suddenly approached by a young person who refers to Zashel by his name and his previous title in the king's army, which was the former Royal Divine Arts Chief. This shocks Tagami, and he wonders if this young man is one of the spies he talked about, when suddenly Zashel tells him to return to the village all on his own, as he has things to talk about with the young man that approached them. While the young man is cheerfully waiting, Zashel sends off Tagami by telling him to make his journey back to the Rufk village and take care of Sun as she does not know anything. He also reminds him about the things he said yesterday and leaves. Tagami sighs, saying that it really is too soon to be leaving him alone, but returns to the doctor's home regardless. Sun comes to greet him very excitedly, expecting THR doctor to be with him as well, but Tagami tells her instantly that the doctor will be gone for a while on a trip. He shows her the new plates he bought, saying how one of them will not be used for a while. When he realizes the awkward pause from Sun, and he turning away being shy, he realizes how they both will have to live alone in the house, and it makes him feel embarrassed. In a buggy, Zashel talks with another old man in a rather familiar manner, who tells him that they will arrive at Paula on 3 days, so Zashel has to stay in the buggy for that long, to which Zashel replies that he has no problem since he is used to ride for long. Zashel then asks the old man to take out his Wind God squad from the Rafk village, where Tagami and Sun currently are, as he would like for them to live peacefully. The old man is impressed by Zashel being able to notice them, while agreeing over how this country of Fonklank may already be done. Meanwhile, over at the doctor's house in the village, Tagami and Sun try talking over dinner. Tagami asks Sun about the taste of the food he served, which Sun says is sweet, but then there is again an awkward pause unless Tagami starts another conversation. As Tagami stands up to move to another room, Sun cheerfully replies back to him, which surprises Tagami. While Tagami prepares his small field, he thinks about how he can do better when living in a house alone with a girl. As he plants fertilizers in the field using his ability, he is greeted by Aunt Bahana, who asks him about what he's doing growing vegetables in a hunting village, to which he replies saying that he needed them. She then asks him about how he is getting up to living with Sun, to which he replies saying that they are making slow progress. Aunt Bahana then scolds him to take the lead in this relationship as he is the man, which he disappointingly accepts. On another day, the situation did not change, they both still just stuck to greetings without any conversation, while people watch. After this repeating for a few days, Tagami decides to actually take the lead, telling Sun about the field he has been creating, but the conversation again starts to fall off in one sentence. However, Tagami quickly recovers and asks Sun to join him at the field to help, which might also inspire other villagers to come, and the field might grow bigger, to which she agrees. As they reach the field the next day, they find it completely destroyed by a few villagers who still do not trust Tagami without Dr. Zashel around. Tagami is sad at first, but he quickly decides to replant everything, which surprises Sun. Seeing this, Sun offers her help, which Tagami gladly accepts and gives her direction to start the work again. He also thinks that having a similar interest is nice. Having set the field up, they return happily, and Tagami creates new tools for the farming, while Sun prepares a nice dinner for both of them. The next day again, they find the field to be destroyed, which annoys Tagami even more. Aunt Bahana comes across the field and joins them to figure out who can do this horrible act. She suggests Tagami to go to the village meeting with this issue, to which he agrees as this problem is something Tagami does not like, while Sun tries to let it go out the goodness of her heart. Tagami then shouts at the top of his lungs, challenging the field destroyer to come out and face him, while also calling out the villagers for nor caring, which impresses Aunt Bahana since she thought he was a shy person. Tagami then uses his ability to set up a trap on the field for the culprit, since it is going to be ruined tomorrow. The plan was to hide in the bush and wait for the culprit to come by, which also gave an opportunity to them to be closer to each other. Suddenly, they see a shadowy figure trampling the field, and they quickly rush at the person. Tagami uses his ability to open the hole he dug up earlier in the day, and the culprit falls into it. When they reach towards him to figure out who it is, Sun recognizes the person as a Mr. Hakari from the village, who tries to turn his evil actions into an act of protection for Sun, as he calls Tagami an outsider who is forcefully living with Sun. Tagami and Sun look at him with judgmental eyes, and then Tagami calls out Hakari as being jealous of the fact that he gets to live alone with Sun, which makes Hakari embarrassed. Tagami then claims that he does not care of these allegations, as he has not done anything wrong to begin with. Tagami then finishes up that interaction saying that he and Sun will keep on creating this field regardless of Hakari's hate, and calls him up to the village meeting tomorrow. Meanwhile, at the Volet's palace, Volet seems to be bored waiting for Zashel to come at the palace, since he never comes due to his fight with her father, King Esphobos. While she finishes up her dessert, she remembers Tagami was someone she found interesting and decides to set out to find him, despite her father refusing her to go, but he falls powerless under her daughter's charms. On the other hand, the country of Blue Garden makes an announcement that Zesheld Fonklank's former Royal Divine Arts Chief is now training their elites. The announcement of Blue Garden about Zesheld, the former Royal Arts Divine Chief of King Esphobos' army, is now teaching THR rival countries' elites. This causes a lot of people to panic, especially Volet, who refuses to believe this statement, as she knows Zesheld was a close friend of the king. While she is shouting and letting her anger out, Krival tries to calm her down, but she shuts him off, saying that he must be happy to hear this news, as he always was against Zesheld. While Krival agrees with what she said, he also reflects on his attempt to arrest Zesheld, and what if that was the reason for this betrayal. He also wonders why King Esphobos has not yet responded to this announcement. On the other hand, Volet decides to visit Tagami at the village where Dr. Zashel's house is located, since she thinks that he must know the reason. Out on the streets of the city, a man with a worn-out state moves about, claiming how he is now free to roam everywhere since Zesheld is not in the country anymore, while giving a very evil smile. Meanwhile, back in Volet's room, Krival is trying his hardest to stop the princess to leave the palace and go to the village alone, since it can be dangerous for her, while Volet claims she is in no trouble as the place is nearby and it has powerless people. While both of them wrestle, a guard comes in the room to alert Krival of the same man that was just roaming the streets, who claims he thinks that there is someone in that village, where the Dr. Zesheld comes from, who is in contact with the Blue Garden, which surprises Volet and Krival. Meanwhile, in the village, Sun peacefully and happily waters the field through the water sprayer Tagami created, and she is glad to have been able to hold a conversation with him properly earlier. But then she sees something in the distance coming towards the village, which the high-end buggy of the Princess Volet, along with Krival, who tries his hardest to control her from being too excited to visit the village Rufk. He wonders if he should have left her behind, but the more important concern is that mysterious man who claims to have seen Zeshel deal with a spy from Blue Garden, which makes sense now, but he cannot be trusted. In the forest, from a pond, Tagami peacefully does his fishing by using a customized fishing rod, as he remembers how he used to fish back in his childhood. Suddenly, that Blue Garden spy sneaks up from behind and startles Tagami, and informs him about something going on in the village, only to vanish into thin air right after. Tagami wonders what actually might be happening, while in the village, Aunt Bahana tries to stop the royals from taking Sun in their buggy, as she is afraid of divine arts users. Volet is surprised to see how fearful Sun is, but Krival still warns her to be careful not to be seen with a powerless person. Volet asks about Zesheld from Sun, to which Sun replies with in surprise, since she did not know if Zesheld was friends with royalty. While Volet and Sun discuss about Zesheld, Tagami comes running and meets up with Aunt Bahana, who informs him that the royals have taken Sun to the city. Knowing this, Tagami approaches the guards and asks to be taken to the city as well, but is first handcuffed as he has black hair and they need to be careful of him. However, Tagami's power enable him to customize the handcuffs as well, and starts focusing on how to change it. Volet and Sun reach the city through their buggy and wait for Tagami to also reach so they can wander around together, but then she is again approached by that creepy old man. He forcefully tries to make his way towards the princess, hoping to gain a position in the palace through framing Zesheld. But when his eyes meet Sun's, they both realize that they have met before during the time when that man and his partner killed Sun's father and injured her. The old man gets worried since Sun remembers him. However, she is too stunned and scared to speak. Tagami reaches the city as well and sees Sun on the ground, shivering from fear and covering herself, so he quickly jumps from the buggy and runs towards her. Tagami shouts at Volet, assuming that it was her conversation that led Sun to such a state, but is hit in the head by one of the royal guards. Volet quickly commands them to stop. While Tagami lays on the ground hurt, he regrets his situation and wishes to customize his body. The evil old man quickly starts accusing Sun as one of the culprits who were there in his fake story about Zashel. Volet refuses to believe his lies, which scares the old man even more as he did not expect that reaction, and now he has no way to save himself. He violently grabs Sun and tries to show the scar on her body from back then as evidence for his lies, when Tagami realizes that this guy was one of the culprits from Sun's trauma who killed her father. While everyone tries to stop him, the creepy old man uses his divine arts to slash Sun another time, which leaves her stunned, and Tagami watches helplessly. The real culprit that killed Sun's father tears off her clothes to reveal her scar from her traumatic past, and shows it to everyone as some sort of proof for his fake story. Everyone, including Tagami, is shocked to see this as he screams Sun's name, while Sun looks away in embarrassment. Volet thinks that to herself that the old man has gone mad, while Tagami uses his powers to break off the handcuffs and moves to strike the old man as he holds him to back off of Sun. The punch connects, knocking the old man on the ground, releasing Sun from his hands. This leaves Krivol wondering how Tagami broke off the handcuffs, but as he is finishing his sentence, Tagami uses his ability to create a wall using the material of the floor, since the entire city of Sankt-Adiot is built as one structure, so his powers considers all of it as just one item, which enables him to customize his surroundings easily, and this time for offense. Everyone else was already shocked to see this kind of power, but then Tagami tells everyone about the crime that old man committed by killing a father and hurting his child, talking about Sun. The old man gets angrier listening to his crimes being exposed, so he immediately attacks Tagami, who again uses his powers to create a defensive wall in front of him to shield himself from the attack. Votes and that old man are shocked to see the divine arts being used in this manner, and Tagami attacks him using the same wall, but the old man starts to retreat again, like he did years ago. Tagami catches on and tries to trap him inside walls he just created, but the old man realizes and attacks back at Tagami, which lightly scratches him on his face. The old man keeps attacking him in different ways, finally bringing Tagami down, and goes in for the final blow as the royal guards are still yet to find their way into the trap. As the old man charges up his attack to kill Tagami, Volet steps in and uses her fire arts to burn the old man, since she knew that the old man was the one who is wrong in this case. Having captured the criminal, Tagami runs straight to Sun, who is in covers and seems fine, all because of Volet helping them, who is busy teasing Krivol for still being down the walls. Krivol wonders what kind of divine arts Tagami used to create such a hole by changing the shape of the floor, thinking back on how Zashel told them that it is a mixture of the 4 divine arts. After fixing the floor and getting everyone out, Tagami turns to Volet and questions her about why she forcefully brings Sun here, to which Volet replies with saying that she wanted to investigate about why Zashel left us, which is then the criminal apparently gave her wrong information about there being a spy of Blue Garden in Rafk village, but it seems that it was all a lie. Tagami thinks about the spy that is actually there, but keeps it to himself, and further scolds Volet that him and Sun were being falsely blamed for something they did not do, and that is not how people are treated. Volet angrily replies that she was never going to treat them this poorly, if not for this incident. Tagami expects Volet to just send him and Sun back home, as it is almost dark. Volet tells him that he has yet to pay for injuring the guards by making them fall into the hold, which shocks Tagami. Tagami tries to blame this onto the carelessness of the guards to begin with, but Volet shuts him down, saying that she knew the old man was a criminal anyway, so the guards could have just taken him down instead of Tagami doing a battle. She decides to be nice about their punishment and cheerfully asks them to have fun with her. While Volet thinks that Tagami really has a mixture of all divine arts, he can be turned into a fire artist and have him turn the entire city into a maze. But Tagami jokes about this situation about not having much experience, and this sort of thing is only done with a lover. This makes Volet scream in embarrassment and denies that she is not such a woman, while Tagami calms her down saying that it was just a joke. Finally, Tagami agrees to Volet's requests and prepares to do something new with his divine arts by changing some structures such as stairs, which leaves both Sun and Volet confused about what he even does with that screen that pops up in front of him. After completing all of the preparations, Tagami kindly calls Sun to stand with him, while he orders Volet to come quickly to the spot, which angers Volet because she does not like the difference in treatment. He then confirms his power, and suddenly, a huge giant tower comes out of the ground, which takes them to great heights that gives them view of the mountains and the sun behind it. This surprises everyone as Tagami just created an observation tower so high in an instant. This excites Volet too much as she looks down the edge of the tower and sees everything appear so tiny, while Kreval just worries about how she is doing. Kreval wonders why Zashel left such a unique kind of divine arts user behind, while Volet excitedly asks about the tower and thanks Tagami, which makes him happy as well. After they view the beautiful sunset, going down the huge tower tires out Tagami and Volet. But Sun is fine as she grew up in a hardworking village. Volet commands the two of them to stay at the palace, which she absolutely wants even if Tagami declines and wants to stay at an inn. Several days later, Sun and Tagami cook food that Tagami says tastes similar to his worlds, side by side and happily. Tagami feels he is closer to Sun now after that day of incident, and he is now used to life on this world. The field that they both worked hard for is also maintained, and even if it has not gotten any growth, the people who are experts in farming claim that it will soon enough. This makes them happy as they plan on expanding the field further. At night, Tagami sits on the front side of house, thinking about how tough it was to work in his world as compared to such a peaceful life in this world. Sun also comes out, sits beside him, and asks him what he is doing, to which Tagami replies that he is just looking at the stars, although he is also a bit shy because Sun is sitting so close to him. As Tagami thinks to start a conversation, Sun asks him about Dr. Zashel's visit to the Blue Gardens, but Tagami only tells her that he is there for some work, since the actual truth of him being there as a spy sent by the royalty should remain a secret. They both then go to sleep. The next day, as Tagami comes out of the bathroom after getting refreshed, he hears loud noise coming from another room. He enters it to find the Princess Volet in the house, trying out the fried items Sun and Tagami cooked, served by Sun. While Tagami is still in a state or shock, Volet eats the snacks and praises them for being tasty, while ordering Sun around the house. After having her meal, Volet then reveals her true reason for visiting, which is to invite Tagami to the royal palace for a chance at a job there, which Tagami instantly refuses, but decides to hear what this is all about. Volet claims that she knew he was not going to agree that easily, so she tells him that this is all because of the huge tower Tagami created in the city of Sank Idiot. While Volet claims that tower for herself, she also addresses the issue that it is built in the lower level of the castle, which makes the middle class and upper class people angry at the fact that it should have been up there for being such a grand structure. Tagami revises the system of power in both countries of Fonclank, where power decides the status, so higher the power higher the status, and Blue Garden, which have all of the 4 divine arts user living in equality except the powerless. Volet further adds that Tagami being a relative to Zashel, who went to Blue Garden, is also a problem as people do not trust him. And so if he works for the government and helps them build a new structure as quickly and just as strong like the tower around the border connecting to Blue Garden, then he and the government of Fonclank will save their reputation. Plus, doing all this will get him more money, and the village of Rafk will receive special treatment, which means Sun's life will also be better. Tagami asks for time to think this offer over, which Volet grants him, 3 days even, after which he has to come over to the castle to give his answer, whether he likes it or not. Tagami feels annoyed to hear that he has to travel regardless, otherwise he will have to do something else for ignoring the king's orders. After Volet takes her leave, Sun happily congratulates Tagami for getting such an amazing offer, and she is fine with him visiting her once every while. But Tagami is disappointed as he wanted to ask her if she can manage all of it on her own. Thinking about the offer, Tagami goes back to his fishing spot and uses his customized fishing rod to catch some fish, but is once again surprised by the sudden appearance of the Blue Garden spy, who asks for a similar rod for the future. Tagami is shocked to see where he even comes from, but the spy changes the mode instantly about bringing up the fact Tagami was invited by the princess of all people. Tagami goes on the offensive, figuring out that the spy stays around in the forest and how the spy is from Blue Garden. He also figures out that working for the government is a problem for Blue Garden, to which the spy agrees to and threatens to kill Tagami, who quickly builds a lot of walls for this battle. However, the spy calms down the situation, saying that he does not secretly kill people, but instead is just someone who provides communication. Seeing how Tagami builds walls from the ground, the spy figures that it eyed the divine arts of Tagami, who proceeds to give him a trial of how it works. The spy uses his divine art and creates a plant that carries over to the walls, but fall into a deadly trap right in front of the wall. The spy is glad he did not fight Tagami, and starts to walk away, but advises Tagami to take the job at the palace since connections and favors help a person at some point in life. While Tagami is thinking about it, the spy once again manages to vanish right in an instant. Back at the house, Sun and Tagami have dinner, but Sun worryingly keeps staring at him, but decides to speak up on this matter of the job. She tells him that while it will be lonely at the home without him, he should take the job since it is a good opportunity, and similar to what Dr. Zashel said, he should go out and explore more of this world because he will one day change it for the better. Seeing how much Sun and Zashel's thinking meets, he is glad to see her resolve and decides to go to Sank 80 tomorrow, and Sun offers to wake him up early. On the next day, Tagami puts on his new clothes and takes off on his journey to the castle, waving Sun goodbye and telling her that he will meet her again soon, putting a smile on Sun's face as he leaves. At the royal palace, Volet dresses up Tagami as her own personal guard, which she is excited about, but Tagami points it out that she tricked him as he was told he would be an official. She brushes that remark aside and quickly takes him to meet with the king, as the situation is weird right now and it is best to wrap it up quickly. As Volet drags Tagami across the throne room, he asks her about how he should even act in front of the king, to which she replies with that he should come up with something by himself. Seeing this, the king's officials worry about how this new personal guard of the princess will turn out, but Krival has high hopes for Tagami's divine arts. The king, his face hidden behind the curtain's shadow, asks Tagami if he would serve this kingdom of Fonclank forever, to which Tagami gives an unsure answer as he is nervous, which Volet also points out. The king then steps forward towards Tagami and grants him a badge of guard, and starts to ask a question but stops midway, which confuses Tagami. As the king wonders about this new relationship of Zashel with Tagami, he sends Tagami off and wishes him well. Walking across a hall, discussing about the talk they just had with the king, Tagami calls it a nervous experience and calls the king an old man, but Volet tells him that her father, the king, can be quite serious during work. Suddenly, a young boy named Hividir greets them, and immediately notices the black hair and eyes of Tagami. For some reason, he steps on Tagami's foot with his own. This angers Tagami as he picks a fight with Hividir, but Volet breaks it off, since Hividir is one of her fiancés. Tagami shockingly asks about the age of these two, which turns out to be 18 of Hividir and 14 of Volet, while Tagami himself is 20 years old. Volet then tells Tagami that Hividir is Duke Vos's successor and his household is also of royalty. Although he deals with some stuff, he gets special treatment just like Tagami, which shocks him as this was far from it. Volet says she treats people she likes like this. As she introduces him to the Divine Palace Guards room, she asks him to pick out a few members from here to help him in his mission, as his new division of the Dark God only has him in it so far. Hesitatingly, Tagami complains about wanting to hear the important stuff beforehand, and chooses 5 people out of the many guards in the room. The 5 people he chose are named Vormal, Aisha, Shade, Ifoka, and Fonk. Vormal is the reliable commander in the Divine Corps. Shade is knowledgeable about the site they are going to visit. Fonk is a fast worker who can carry loads here and there easily. Aisha is a perfectionist who cares about small details in things, even though Fonk points out that her chest is so big. Seeing how much of an unusual group he has picked, Tagami gets ready to take off for the building of that fortress on the border, while Volet will go back to meet her father for lunch as a reward for bringing Tagami on the castle, which leads to Tagami making a casual remark on her controlling character. Vormal leans in Tagami's ear and asks about his relationship with the princess, also referring to him as captain, making Tagami wonder if he should use respectable terms in the castle. He tries calling Volet as a princess, but after a moment of silence, goes back to calling her Volet repeatedly as he could not get used to the honorific. On the buggy to the fortress, Tagami's team tell him about how the fortress has been built 1/3 of the way, and the king plans to put guards there once it is done. The team then asks Tagami whether he can complete the fortress in an instant like that tower, to which Tagami replies with saying he can if he has all the materials present. They confirm that there are indeed a lot of materials for him at the site, and so it should not be a problem for him to complete it. As they reach the site of Fortress, Ifoka tried to use her wind and alert the people at Fortress about their arrival, but she gets no response from the inside. Vormal asks Ifoka what is wrong, to which she answers that her wind is not working for some reason, even though it can travel through long distance, and another wind user responds to her signals. Suspicious, they all realize that the area is way too quiet and there are no workers working. While they all try to figure out what might be wrong here, since the workers were working all day long a few days ago, Tagami suddenly hears a voice in his head that warns him about someone about to attack him from behind. He turns around to see someone attacking, but responds quickly by creating a wall in front of him. It was a wind blade, and 2 of them, coming from behind the pile of dirt, which forces Tagami to create more walls around him and his team to protect against those dangerous blades. Shade uses his water arts to block another blade, while Fonk figures that the attackers are the elites of the Blue Garden Wind Troop. This makes them realize that the workers are all dead, and so they run towards the fortress to take cover, and Tagami commands Volnar to take charge for now, as it is hard for him to customize and give orders at the same time. As they enter the fortress, Vormal commands Ifoka to look around for enemies, which he does, and while they all are getting into formation, Tagami realizes that these guys are elites, despite being wind users, the lowest ranked divine arts users, and the criminal from back then was nothing compared to them. As Ifoka confirms that there are no enemies inside, they all run in and Tagami immediately closes up all of the entrances using his ability so that the attackers cannot get an opening to enter the fortress. They all take a small breather as they have managed to stop the attacks for now. Meanwhile, on the outside, the Wind Divine Arts using attackers try to break down the walls using their attacks, but they can barely even scratch it, which surprises them as the walls were not that strong a few days ago. One of them figures out that it might the black-haired one that made the walls this strong, to which the other attacker agrees as he heard that his divine arts were different. The attackers discuss whether they should file a complaint about the intelligence division not giving them proper information to counter such a situation, but they seem hesitant as they are also the ones who brought Zashel to Blue Garden's side in the first place, and so he will defend them. The regret about failing their mission of causing unrest in the country of Fonclank, but there are no signs of any sort of resistance in the kingdom, and if word got out that the fortress was attacked by the Blue Garden's Wind Troop elites, then that will cause a war, so they cannot leave any witness behind like Tagami and his group. But since they cannot do anything from the outside, they trust their allies in the fortress who have hidden themselves to not be found until they want to. Meanwhile, in the fortress, Tagami and his team are worried about that Ifoka's wind arts have been blocked, so they cannot communicate with the outside and also cannot get any help. Tagami reassures them that it is not a problem, since them vanishing for a while will make Volet suspicious and she might come looking for you. Shade and Vormal discuss that they need to get food and water, so they should search the fortress since the storage in the cart is a lost cause now. They think the food would be in a warehouse which has away from the kitchen. To which Aisha adds that they need medical supplies as well, oil and wood to keep their daily important things in check. Fonk then jokes about getting alcohol from somewhere, but Aisha scolds him about it. Tagami then commands them all to find the cellar together, and after they have found the resources, they are to split up and search the first and second floors. Volmer and Tagami shares appreciation for each other about how amazing leaders they both are, while comforting Ifoka that she can do her best in figuring out the enemies when they reach the floors. Tagami thinks back about the voice that warned him of the attack, and recognizes it as the voice of the spy in his village. Moving across the fortress, they do not find any people inside, which makes them wonder what happened to them, as Ifoka cannot even feel their presence using her wind arts. However, Ifoka points out that the air in this place is very suspiciously clean, and upon Tagami asking, she explains that people leave traces of winds whenever they enter a place, but since there is not any trace here, the wind troop elites must have cleared it all out by removing the bodies and even cleaning their blood, which means that everyone here has been gone for a very long time. Shade reminds them that he was here 10 days ago to bring in new materials and change a few guards, so this must have happened after that. Vormal figures that the attackers faked communications with the kingdom to throw them off, and even this situation might be a trap. Shade debunks this theory as he recalls that the attackers tried breaking down the wall created by Tagami's divine arts, so that means that they were not prepared of it, even though one injury from those arrows would be lethal. As they reach the cafeteria, they find blood stains and broken tables in the room, making it seem like the killing of the vast number of workers must have happened during a break time. Fonk worries if all the bodies of these people are shoved in the food cellar, they are going to. Ifoka acts very nervous and scared listening to and seeing all of this, so Tagami checks up on her, since she is just a child, when they come across the gate of the cellar that is completely shut down. However, through Tagami's great divine arts, he opens it up in an instant, which surprises Vormal as he states that not even an earth artist can do such a thing this effectively, and how this is such an advantage indoors against enemies. Fonk opens up the cellar door on Tagami's command, but stops and thinks for a moment when Tagami asks what's wrong. Meanwhile, Ifoka, when asked by Aisha, tells that 3 wind artists' auras are detected, and also 1 prisoner, but they are all sleeping. Curious, everyone wonders if this was a trap, so Vormal asks Tagami if there was something weird when he unlocked the door. Tagami tells him that there was supposed to be a falling marble if this was opened the normal way, making it a trap waiting to be activated. Now that they all know this trap, they decide to use it an advantage to Tagami and team. As they all prepare for a close and quick combat, taking the enemies by surprise, everyone takes up their weapons and prepare their arts, but Tagami stops them for a moment, as he remembers that he can customize and upgrade weapons using his powers like game. Although all of these weapons are of low quality, their stats can still be increased, and so he does it, while contemplating how he even forgot about this basic feature in every game. After upgrading the weapons, he gives them back and asks if they all feel any difference, to which they all say that they feel a lot better to hold and swing their weapons. Vormal again questions what actually is Tagami's divine art, as it is even able to change and increase the stats of a weapon just by touching it. Tagami names it the evil god's divine art and smiles, which Vormal acknowledges, and then they move forward with the plan of attack. The 3 of them will go forward to start the attack, and the rest will follow to support them when the signal is giving. Vormal asks Tagami if he has any real battling experience, to which he just counts his fight in the plaza, and so leaves the command to Vormal. Then Vormal, Shade, and Fonk step down the stairs leading to the cellar, while Tagami wonders how his first mission turned into such a difficult task. As they enter the dark underground cellar, Vormal, Shade, and Fonk move with care and slowly while looking around the area. They come across a hallway with a lot of rooms, and when Vormal peels through one, he sees a bunch passed out soldiers of the Wind Troop Elite's army. Vormal commands Shade to attack the ones in the middle along with him, and Fonk is to kill the one on the left. Killing them in their sleep is the approach Vormal takes, because that protects the captured people of the fortress. Vormal, Shade, and Fonk then quietly enter the room, sneakingly reaching the passed-out elite soldiers and killing them instantly in one strike. Having been easily done with the task, Vormal calls in Tagami and the rest down to the room they are in, where he is unfamiliar with the smell of blood and is also surprised about how quickly the job was done. Vormal says that it was only because of the improved weapons Tagami made for them, as they would have lost if it weren't for them. Tagami then shows his concerns about the prisoner in the room, held by the elite soldiers of the Wind Troop, to which Vormal shows him that the two girls are actually fine, but the third one might be too damaged for the captain to see. Shade, however, disagrees and claims that Tagami is not that immature to not be able to handle such a sight, which makes Tagami thinks that he is at least old enough to be able to look at such sights. Fonk claims he had the impression that Tagami was just a noble who has never seen the battlefield, but then continues about how there were 3 prisoners in the room, but one of them was a government agent, so the elites tortured her to death to get information. Vormal then removes the cover from her body, already mentioning that this is not something one should be willing to see, and he was correct, as it was a corpse that was damaged all over the place. Tagami, hesitant at first, but tries to keep looking at it, which impresses Vormal a bit, and touches it to only find out that the corpse can be customized. At first he is in disbelief of this fact, but then he tries to use his power to fix the body from all of its torture injuries and is able to actually heal it entirely. Everyone is shocked beyond belief, but Tagami regrets that he cannot completely bring her back from the dead, which Vormal claims would have been too much for them to take in, and Ifoka even consoles Tagami that the deal girl must be happy that he was at least able to put her body together. They then turn to the other 2 prisoner girls after Aisha healed them and ask about what actually happened. The girls tell them that 3 days after the new materials appeared, the guards suddenly collapsed and workers were getting brutally killed left and right. It was the Wind Troop elites that had hid inside the fortress by dressing up as the workers and killed everyone, so now Tagami and his team have to identify the true workers from the fake ones, when suddenly they hear a loud noise, which came from the trapdoor as Tagami restored the metal ball on it before coming down, so that it activates if opened by someone else. Ifoka informs the team that there are 2 people coming downstairs and they know about Tagami and team being here as well. So Vormal quickly asks orders from Tagami, who thinks about how the spy from the village fell for the traps under his divine arts walls, and so he asks Shade if divine arts can be used at a single moment, which Shade says is possible if the person has enough focus. Vormal adds that if they are facing elites trained for the only purpose to break in, they might be able to. Tagami gets a bit disappointed learning the truth, as he hoped to capture at least one of them alive. The 2 elites of the Wind Troop try and scare Tagami and team by telling them about the already hidden in the fortress teammates of theirs and more on the way from outside, but are immediately met with a sneak attack from behind by Tagami, who creates a hole underneath them and trap them there. Suddenly, he hears a woman running down the stairs, calling out to her comrades, but he changes the stairs to a slope and makes her slide off into the trap hole as well, which Ifoka confirms is the last of them, as Tagami closes the hole with them inside. Tagami gets uncomfortable by the fact that he just killed people, but moves on with his team. They find out that the 2nd floor is actually empty, so the previous enemies were just lying to scare them, but there is still the sewage area on the 1st floor that needs checking. As they open the door to the staircase to go down, a horrible smell hits them, and they quickly realize that it is the smell of many dead bodies, and so Tagami asks Ifoka just stay up as it might be too much for a child, seeing how he is already too stunned. Fonk, Vormal, and Tagami go down the stairs to meet with a huge pile of dead bodies thrown away to rot below the staircase, and they come back up immediately as it is not wise to stay there for long. Vormal and Fonk are impressed by Tagami, as he held on looking at that disgusting sight, but Tagami thinks to himself that he, deep down, had actually made himself familiar with that sight. And then they decide to go and take care of the Wind Troop elites outside, sent by THD Blue Garden. After having come across such a horrible sight, Tagami and team prepares to battle the enemies out front, but before that, Tagami uses his divine arts to improve the strength of the fortress, and also makes a tube for Ifoka to use her wind arts and tell the horses to run away, as he does not want to involve them in such a matter. Seeing the horses run away on their own, the Wind Troop elites are surprised to learn fact that the team from Fonclank are still alive, and the attack they had planned failed, so they must have sent the empty buggy to go and ask for help from the kingdom. While they are figuring out their next move, one of them sees something with the fortress and alerts everyone else. They all are in complete shock of what is happening. The fortress first lets a beam of light out, going all the way to the sky, and then it lights up itself, when suddenly it starts to come apart, and pieces of the fortress starts flying towards the Wind Troop elites, pieces from the upper levels of the fortress, and attacks the whole lot of them. This was Tagami's doing. He used his divine arts to take 50 Tuban stones out from the fortress, flew them 100 meter high, and sent them down on the elites, attacking them without mercy. The elite Wind Troop starts to panic as they all die left and right, so their boss tries to escape by using his wind arts to protect himself, but is suddenly stopped in his tracks when by someone that appeared right in front of him and cuts off his leg and kills him. Though, weirdly enough, the last words of the elite, upon seeing that figure, called him a traitor. 4 days later, after earning victory over the Wind Troop elites sent by the Blue Garden, news traveled about it in papers, and Tagami's team got the praise for it. Votes reads this news to him excitedly, while he quietly sips his tea. But Tagami shuts off the idea of being a hero, as he believes that he is given that title because he came back alive, unlike those daughters and sons that died. Princess Votel, unable to understand this, mistakes it as humility from his part, but he understands as she never had to experience such a thing. Tagami tries to act like the part he is being praised for, but Volet immediately screams at him to drop it and runs away from the room crying, which makes Krival angry at him as well, but he cannot do anything about it. Krival scolds Tagami that he might have seen horrible things on his mission, but he should not use that as an excuse to look down on people that have not. And that is exactly what the princess hates, since people treat her as princess who knows nothing. Krival even tells Tagami that Princess Volet understands these matters on a deeper level, and if she were to experience more of the world, she would be a lot better at her job. This reminds Tagami of Zashel's words, and so he quickly runs off to see Volet and talk to her. He reaches the tower he created on the lower level, as he knew the princess would be here. He gets recognized by the local people there as the hero, who thank him and confirm that the princess went up there, so he quickly buys 4 rings to customize them to make himself run more efficiently so that he does not get tired. Tagami grabs Volet and makes her turn his way, since she did not want him to see her crying face, but faces him anyways, and so Tagami apologizes to her as he thought that his job came with the condition to not tell the princess who knows nothing about his missions, but he did not think about how Volet would feel. Tagami tells her that he and Krival believe she can be a great princess if she learns more about the world, which reminds her of how Zashel and her father used to say the same thing, and they both offer to learn together and grow together as partners from now on, while the sun shines brightly stop the mountains. After sharing such a kind and happy moment, Volet teases Tagami about holding her face to close at his, giving the impression that he might be dating her, which the Souliter behind them definitely misunderstand about, but brushes it off as he's a hero and might be a fiancé after all. After the incident at the fortress, news of Tagami's heroics reached the fortified city Paula of Blue Garden, where the old man that took Zashel with him seems angry at Tagami, as his plans were ruined. This attack was carried out by a small yet important number of Solider in the Wind Troop elites, which are now lost, and the advantage Blue Garden had of Fonclank is now lost. Fire Troop Captain, a Blue Garden elite, Vormis shares the old man's frustrations but tries to calm him down, but the old man worries that even if they attack Fonclank as is, the other countries will attack them from behind, as they are not liked by them. So now the government has to let go of the Wind Troop by announcing that it acted on its own will. Vormis mentions how Fonclank is using their new hero to control the battle in their advantage, and so they have to act nice to King Esphobus. The old man asks Vormis about the queen of their own country, to which he replies with that she is doing just fine as usual. In a magic academy, Zashel is teaching students on how to control their magic, but he is aware of how many days have passed since Tagami's coming into this world and Zashel's entry in Blue Garden. Zashel knows what Esphobus is trying to do, increasing Tagami's fame from the first mission, and so he worries that Tagami might see the ugly of this world and decide to destroy it fully as the evil god of calamity. He worries that if Tagami sees too much negativity, it would result in destruction, but brushes this thought off as just an effect of the environment he is in. Meanwhile, one of the girls in the academy approaches Zashel and asks if he is turning his face in disappointment over her ability, but he reassures her that her water arts are good enough to enter in the water army. The girl tells her goal of turning into an elite to help her sister, but Zashel tells her that the army and elites are different, and meeting her sister will be hard for now. The girl says that her sister will take a break after her next mission, and upon being asked by Zashel, tells that she is in the Wind Troop. As Tagami is going down the hall at the palace, thinking if visiting the Morph Ranch, he is stopped by Hividir, who asks him about the divine arts controlling rings. Tagami tells him that those rings take 50 days to make, and he cannot rush them. But the truth about them is something else, as they provide huge advantage to the person who wears them, and so they cannot be easily given away to everyone since it can bring about war, which Tagami was supposedly going to do as an evil god. Volet agrees and tells Kreval to ask her first about the missions the Dark God Squad gets, and also tells both of them to lie about the rings that they take a long time to make, which they agree to. Tagami tries to delay it further when talking to Hividir by saying that the Flame God Squad's captain should get one first, but Hividir tells him that the nobles deserve it first, plus he cannot let Tagami beat his as the princess's fiancé since he too has things going on in his life, which makes Tagami feel a little bad for him. Additionally, when Hividir turns around to leave, he accidentally gets hit by a table that a server was moving and cries in pain. Tagami then reaches the ranch, and while he is going around looking at it, he comes across Ifoka and is surprised to see her since it is a place where the powerless work. Ifoka, nervously, tries to convince Tagami that she did not hide her personal lifestyle but was just afraid to losing her power, as she introduces her powerless parents to Tagami, who tries calming down the situation. As they are coming to an understanding, a demonic beast enters the ranch, so Tagami immediately uses his divine arts to create a protective wall and pit like he always does. But before he could, a muscular, dark-skinned swordswoman comes onto the scene with great speed and kills the demonic beast in one attack. He is then faced by two more demonic beasts who manage to bite his arm and sword. This worries Tagami and Ifoka, but the swordsman calmly uses his strength to throw the demonic beasts onto each other and slay them again with just one strike. As Tagami runs towards him to check if he is okay, the swordsman turns towards him and recognizes him as the black-haired hero of Gearhawk, the fortress. Back at Ifoka's home, as she fixes the swordsman with some bandages, she also answers Tagami about why she was hiding the fact that her parents were powerless, since people do deny them as humans on the same level, so that might lead to her being fired from her job. She also says that a divine artist user can be born from two powerless people, but they are usually given to family who can use divine powers, but Ifoka decided to stay and help her real parents. She tells him that the demonic beasts have been coming to the ranch more often this time, and so she came here to talk about it to her parents as the officials do not care about the powerless and their lives. Tagami compliments her for being brave, which makes Ifoka happy, who then thanks the swordsman for protecting them from the demonic beasts, and the swordsman humbly returns the favor. The swordsman introduces himself as Shinha and how he just travels all around and was lucky to come here on time. Ifoka wonders who a powerless person is traveling so freely, but Tagami is more curious about the sword carried by Shinha, since it has been so well made. Shinha notices that Tagami drinks the tea made by a powerless, even though he is of royalty, and then shows his broken sword to Tagami, who finds out that the sword is made up of materials that are even rarer than crystals. Shinha tells that his sword broke from the fight he had with a few Blue Garden people, which shocks Ifoka as she finds it surprising that a powerless person defeated people that use divine arts. Meanwhile, Tagami is excited about the sword and offers to fix it with some few extra boosts. Seeing how excited Tagami is and does not seem too cautious, Shinha gets interested in how he will turn out. Tagami asks Shinha about his problems with the sword and immediately fixes it using his powers and also adds a healing factor in the sword. Shinha is first confused at first, but as he grabs the sword in his hand, the bite from the demonic beat completely heals on its own, which shocks Shinha. Additionally, Tagami made the sword faster and more durable so that it does not break anymore, and asks Shinha to let him test it by creating some strong targets to slice. Shinha is even more amazed by Tagami's ability, but is worried that the sword might break when hitting these targets. Tagami reassures him that there will not be any problem, so Shinha starts swinging his new and improved sword, which able to destroy the targets completely. Seeing how amazingly the sword works now, Shinha and Tagami are both surprised but happy about it. So he thanks Tagami for such a gift, even though he is a powerless person, but Tagami says that he does not think like that and appreciates Shinha's help in saving Ifoka's parents. Shinha then properly introduces himself as Shinha Trueyard from the Kingdom of Gazette and offers to be of use to Tagami in the future. Then the swordsman goes on his path after a respectable farewell to Ifoka and Tagami. Tagami asks Ifoka about her being unusually liked in this ranch by the powerless people, to which she replies to saying that the officials always treat these people unfairly, especially during times of troubles, which makes the powerless people hate and fear them. Tagami remembers Zashel's words about the power system in this world, and how the powerless are cut off simply because they do not have divine arts, and that is a problem because they are still people like everyone else, and he cannot just ignore their problems about having to deal with the demonic beasts. Meanwhile, in the city of Paula, in Blue Garden, the same spy from the Rafk village visits Zashel with the news of the Gearhawk Fortress event and how Tagami's divine art has grown stronger, which nearly even killed the spy. Zashel seems happy and sad about this, since the power is something to fear, but the government of Blue Garden are now focusing on improving their elite armies with less attention to him. Zashel tells the spy that he will be meeting the Water Priestess Queen, to which the spy responds with the name of the first metropolis, Kafta. Blue Garden started as a small kingdom near the Shalnar Temple in the First Mountains. The main city is Metropolis at the top, ruled by the Queen with strong support from the people and the temple. Supreme Commander Isipnar controls most of the government from the second city, Paula. But the Water Priestess Queen still has a lot of influence and popularity among the people, so he can't ignore her. Zashel says that due to the Queen and Isipnar having difference in opinion, he can get many opportunities to take advantage of here in Blue Garden, which the spy understands and offers to take care of the place of Zashel as well. Zashel apologizes for stacking up work for him even though he has his original job, but the spy tells him not to worry as Tagami paid him for his troubles by giving him a fish hook as he smiles cheerfully. In the first metropolis, Kafta, of the Blue Gardens, the Queen receives a letter of a meeting from Zashel, which she remembers is the divine arts chief they brought from Fonklank. She guesses that he is with Isipnar, but she knows she cannot refuse this request. On the other hand, in the room of Princess Volet of Fonklank, Tagami asks her to raise the status of the powerless people in the system, but she tells him that it is not possible since suddenly changing things will cause a big disturbance in the population, with Krival adding that the number of nobles is much higher than the number of powerless people, so it is going to make it worse for the powerless people than it already is, which Tagami agrees to, giving a sigh. Krival suggests to directly take advantage of the official's pride if Tagami wants to finish the unfair treatment of the powerless, since changing the system entirely is practically impossible, and even if he changes something in the education system, it will still take time to even get any results. Tagami does not seem to be in favor of this idea, since he knows the officials do not really care about their pride, while most also are working for their families. While Krival agrees that this observation is true, Tagami suggests to Volet to create a law that protects the powerless people by giving a good enough reason that does not anger the nobles and even stays in line with their mentality, which Volet says is possible, but the reason to pass such a law must be good. Tagami tells her that she can use the fact that Blue Garden uses them, the powerless people, as slaves, and so no one in Fonclank should do the same, as this will not make any difference in the power system of this country, but just protects the powerless people better. While Krival is hesitant to go forward with this idea, as he does not see the point, Volet cheerfully accepts the idea since it really does not make a difference, as anyone gaining or losing from this decision will not matter in the long run. Tagami is happy to hear this, and so makes a funny comment about how rare it is for Volet to say such a good thing. Volet screams at him for calling her an idiot, but Tagami calms her down and tells her that this will make it easier for the travelers to go around the country more easily, like Shinha from the kingdom of Gazette. Upon hearing Gazette, Volet gets scoffed and asks Tagami about how much he knows of that kingdom. He says that he only saw it on a map once, but what even is the matter with it? To which she replies with that she also do not know much about it, but only things that Zashel told her, which is that it is a country for powerless people, but their king is a powerful person who has his powerless warriors trained a lot. It also is in a mountain area, with their largest city being close to Blue Garden. However, it looks like a normal country from the outside, which surprises Tagami and Krival, as they did not expect for such a country to exist that is run by powerless people. Volet adds that the powerless people have better physical abilities than the divine artists, which all the other kingdoms ignore, and Krival adds that finding them is even harder since they do not have any feel to them, so only a wind divine arts user can find them. Tagami thinks about Sun and Aunt Bahana and how they are quite strong despite having such small figures, and so it gives him an idea of making physical labor jobs for the powerless people around the divine artists, since they are really good at it, along with the protection law. Tagami suggests to hire the powerless people as cleaning persons for the palace, which Volet agrees will help with people that refuse to listen to the authorities in the first place. Tagami further adds that if the powerless people start to earn money for themselves, then it might increase their respect in the eyes of the nobles, as people normally only care about money. Krival is troubled to hear such an idea and asks if it can even go this smoothly, to which Tagami replies that what he said about education taking a long time to fix this problem is true, and even this issue is a thing because of what children have been learning about the four gods, which makes him question if there are any teachings from the four gods about the treatment of powerless people. Volet says that she cannot think of anything that says about the powerless people being mistreated, while Krival does remember a general saying that the people who reject their teachings shall be sent away, but there is no saying of where, so Tagami thinks that it will not matter when they pass the law. Then he thinks if Shinha was also one of the powerless warriors trained in the kingdom of Gazette. Volet then goes to her father, hugs him like a little girl, and Sweets talks him into passing the law about the protection of the powerless people, which the nobles think is an act of get more money, and it may have to do with Tagami, the new man she brought. A few days later, the law passed. But just before that, in the first metropolis of Blue Garden, Kofta, Zashel enters a cave that leads to an underground city with the powerless people moving around freely and are not treated as slaves, which makes him wonder how different the treatment of powerless people is here, unlike Paula, and these two cities are from the same kingdom, so he must make sure that this meeting with the princess goes well. He then enters the palace, walks down the hallway, and as he enters the queen's throne room, he goes down on one knee and says his respectful greetings towards the queen, who tells him that those greetings are not important and he should get up. The queen straight up asks him what business he has with her, to which Zashel replies that he wanted to meet her at some point when he came to Blue Garden, but the queen shuts him off, saying that he actually escaped to this country exactly 1 month and 10 days ago, suggesting that he could have came sooner. Zashel is shocked to hear such harsh words and tells her that he was only recently able to get the chance to actually meet with the queen, who says that this was not even by her choice, and why did Zashel get the chance now of all times? Zashel clearly tells her that he was avoiding Isipnar's partners and wanted to personally meet the queen as the former divine arts chief of Fonclank and not Blue Garden. She immediately stops him right there and asks what he means by this, but Zashel counter-questions her about how she feels regarding the current state of Blue Garden. The queen tries telling Zashel that she has no problem with her country as of now, since it has managed to challenge countries like Fonclank and Nossense, even though it was created just a few years ago. But Zashel tells her the reality that the outside world does not look at Blue Garden that way, and she should see the world outside of her metropolis of Kofta. One of the officials of the queen shouts at Zashel for saying such bold words to the queen, but the queen commands her to be silent, as she knows that what Zashel is saying is true, but she says that she can use this quick growth of Blue Garden to one day create a kingdom where powerless and powerful people can live together in peace, as her father dreamed of creating such a place as well. Zashel makes a huge claim that if things keep going like this, the queen will lose her power even here in Kofta, which angers the officials again, and one of them speak up again, even though the queen ordered them not to, which is exactly why Sarah, one of the two officials, does not say anything and even tries stopping the first one. The queen once again asks the two of them to stop, and turns to Zashel to ask what does he even mean, so Zashel in a thinking manner tells her that he wishes to have his country Fonclank and the queen's country to be on friendly terms, rather than a war. After a moment of silence, the queen asks Zashel if his intentions are for her to get rid of Isipnar, to which he replies that he would prefer if she did it peacefully. The queen thinks that if Isipnar were to disappear right now, the country of Blue Garden will fall into trouble, and so that will give Fonclank a chance to attack and capture them. But Zashel turns down this idea as he knows Fonclank does not want to attack them. The queen, confused, asks why not, since getting rid of Isipnar will give them this chance. Zashel says that she should not think so lowly of her own influence, respect, and authority throughout the country, and suggests to provide her with the manpower she needs to carry out this act, which again leaves her confused about what does Zashel even means. After the law was passed about the protection of the powerless people, Tagami walks around the city of Sank Adiot and realizes that not much has changed from before, as people seem to be going about their days like usual. But when he reaches his room, he finds the spy of Blue Garden sitting on his bed, holding a letter for Tagami. But Tagami starts to question him as a guard of the royal palace, which the spy jokes about, and is also proud of him for being matured a bit. The letter the spy brought was from Dr. Zashel, which gets Tagami excited, but the spy tells him that the letter is about the recent news, an explanation of how this situation came to be, and how he wants an item, basically spoiling everything before Tagami got to read the letter, and so he angrily shouts at him. Tagami starts reading the letter, which starts by Zashel greeting him and also being aware of how good a life Tagami is living since he defeated the army of Blue Garden at the Gear Hawk Fortress, of which news came to Blue Garden as well, and now the military of that country is in a panic, which gave Zashel an opportunity to make his move by approaching the queen and getting her in power so they can take over the supreme commander Isipnar. And then Zashel asks Tagami to create an item for the queen so that she can use it to show her power, which confuses Tagami as to what he means by that, which the spy says that is something like the short swords or the magic rings Tagami has already created for his teammates, but on a much more powerful scale, so that it can be termed as a sacred treasure that the queen possesses, which will get her the support she needs, as there are people that will definitely side with her after seeing that she has a sacred treasure which can influence their beliefs, since Isipnar has a lot more power as of now. Doing this will let them overpower Isipnar and give the control to the queen, which will then make way for Fonclank and Blue Garden to be on friendly terms with each other, or even if a civil war broke out between the Blue Garden parties, Fonclank will have no troubles. Tagami is lost in deep thought when listening to all of this information. The spy reveals that he is a double agent who works for both King Esphobus and Zashel. And so it is them who will start the fire, but will have nothing to do with it afterwards, which then makes Tagami realize that why he encouraged him to take the job in the royal palace, and now he will get on with the sacred treasure he needs to make for the queen. The spy, who is known as Reifold, leaves normally for once to report to King Esphobus, which surprises Tagami, who gets the idea that he can now contact Zashel through him in the future. Tagami worries that Zashel is over there in Blue Garden alone and is trying to get the queen in power all on his own, so the best way to safely and quickly support him now is to create that fake sacred treasure, as this situation is now much more serious than before. Meanwhile, in Isipnar's office, he and Fire God Squad Commander Vormis discuss how Zashel took advantage of the situation by talking to the Queen during THR panic in the military of Blue Garden, and he is probably aiming to get the Queen in power during these problems. Isipnar realizes that the Gearhawk Fortress event was too much of a loss for them, which even got them to waste important time, and now they have lost Zashel, the former Divine Arts Chief, to the Queen's side, so Isipnar reveals to Vormis that he was already planning on killing both the Queen and Zashel, and then blaming Zashel for the Queen's death, which would give them a chance to attack Fonclank. But now he does not have that opportunity and needs to come up with something else. Vormis predicts that Zashel is going for a civil war by getting the Queen to power, which would then give Fonclank a chance to attack by siding with the Queen in the civil war of Blue Garden whilst they fight amongst their own without defense to outer attacks. Isipnar realizes that due to the Queen having popularity amongst the people of Blue Garden, a lot of officials and army commanders may go to her side when she does something which challenges his power, and so they need to do something about it quickly, which is when Vormis suggests him to send someone to Zashel's side by paying that person. Isipnar gives his permission to Vormis, who tells him that the Water Divine Arts Troupe are about to get a new member. On the other hand, Tagami is busy finding items for creating that sacred treasure for the Queen that Zashel asked, but he cannot find decent items to create it with, even if he combines different materials together to increase their effects, like a sword he has that is actually on the same level as a crystal, but it just is not as great as Shinha's sword, and there is the matter of actually being able to use the items he creates. He gives up for the day and lays down on his bed, thinking about how much of a waste shopping was today, when suddenly his door gets knocked on. Tagami guesses it is Volet who has visited to eat some sweet Rala fruits, which he should also send to Sun, but it is the spy Reifold who looks at the mess on Tagami's bed and guesses that it has not been going well for him. Tagami tells him that it will only be good if he has a good material for it, so Reifold gives him an item personally sent by the King Esphobus, which appears to be a shiny round material, but Tagami uses his abilities to find out that it is perfect to create that sacred treasure. Hearing this, Reifold goes to leave and come back tomorrow night, but Tagami gives a job and a ring as his payment. On his way, moving fast and swiftly through the road due to the customized ring given to him by Tagami, Reifold is impressed by how effective it is even if it is just an experiment, and he compliments Tagami's abilities to create such a thing, and to be able to make good connections with such important people such the Princess Volet and the eldest son of Vos family, Hividir, and is sure that Tagami will indeed bring change to this world. Turns out, Reifold delivered the sweet Rala fruits to Sun as a job given by Tagami, which makes Sun happy and appreciate Tagami's hard work as she finds the fruit in her house. The evening of the next day, Reincarnated visits Tagami to ask if he was done with the sacred treasure, and to no surprise, Tagami was done. He created a sort of crown using the material that King Esphobus gave to him, and this crown has a lot of useful boosts like watery arts amplification, physical strength amplification, physical strength recovery, healings antidote, calming aura, divine arts resistance boost, defense boost, and movement speed boost. With these supporting effects and boost, you can keep on fighting without ever stopping, unless it is for eating or going to the toilet. Reincarnated looks at it, and in amazement of it, agrees that it does look like a sacred treasure. Tagami tells him that he wanted to make a ring or a bracelet, but the effects were limited on those, so he went with this design, plus he made a ring from the same material, and asks Reincarnated to give this to the queen as well, but he does not if it will work. Reincarnated asks why he is not sure of it not working, while taking a closer look at it, to which Tagami replies saying that the effect is just that special that he cannot test it, even though the real reason for the sacred treasure being circle and the ring's effect were from games he used to play, but he cannot say that out loud. Reincarnated then leaves with both the items, telling Tagami that he has also completed his job of delivering the package to the village, which reminds Tagami that the harvesting festival is about to come and he should go visit the village of Rufk, and thinks about what kind of gift he should take back with him, while also waiting for the sacred treasure to reach the queen. Meanwhile, on the Blue Garden side, the little girl from the Academy of Zashel is seen crying after finding her sister's dead body, as she was one of those killed by Tagami during the Gear Hawk Fortress event. The girl is then approached by the Fire God's squad commander Vormist, when she is standing alone looking at the sky in sadness, as he introduces himself with an evil smile on his face. The girl, Plasha, who just lost her sister recently, is tasked by Vormist to join the water troop and find out things about Zashel, the instructor, as he is betraying Blue Garden. Plasha immediately asks if Zashel is working as a spy for Confronting, which Vormist confirms that he is, as his movements have been very confusing since he met with the queen without ever telling the headquarters, and tells her about how the queen is not feeling well these days, as she has misunderstood her father's dream, who gave a special place and treatment to the powerless just because he felt like it. But now she has kept all of them and herself in a cave, with leaving all of the responsibilities to Isipnar, which shocks Plasha as she did not expect the queen to be like this. He then sells her lies that Zashel is looking to gain the queen's support by siding with the powerless people, and then rise to a higher position to cause destruction in the country, but Plasha tries to stop him from telling her any more secret information like this. He mentions her dead sister, which stuns Plasha in place, as he tells her that the hero who killed her sister in the Gear Hawk Fortress incident has some kind of relation to Zashel. He continues to tell her lies and degrading facts about how Confronting treats its wind arts users as the lowest of the bunch, and how badly they treat the unfortunate ladies if the wind arts that are born there, indicating how badly Tagami, the hero of Gearhawk, must have killed her sister as she was part of the wind troop elites. Plasha is left speechless and completely blank hearing all of this, but Vormist keeps going about how she should use her student-teacher relationship with Zashel to get close to her, seeing how his teammates cannot get close to him normally, and if Zashel tries to use her later, she should report back to the lodge about what happened. As he leaves, Plasha stands there thinking about all of the things he told her, and is confused about what to do next. Meanwhile, in Confronting, Tagami finally gets to his Rafk village after a month on his buggy and stops by his home. As he stops, Sun happily comes running out of the house, greeting him with bright eyes, but a man from her house comes out, who is Sun's childhood friend and has been visiting her since she has been living alone without Tagami around. His name is Tally's, and then they greet each other, taking all of Tagami's luggage into the house. After helping Tagami set up, Tally's leaves, but his help is appreciated by Tagami. While finally being able to relax, Tagami asks Sun about how the festival usually goes, to which she replies with saying that it is just them cooking a lot of food and eating it all outside together. But this time it could get more lively, which Tagami looks forward to. As she unpacks Tagami's bags, Sun finds a beautiful dress that Tagami brought as a gift from the capital, and absolutely loves and appreciates it, which makes both of them happy about the situation. Later in the day, Tagami is sitting outside under the shade of a tree, looking at all of the people preparing for the festival, when he looks at Tallies and Sun being close and wonders if they were always like that. He is then greeted by Aunt Bahana, who makes a comment on his still little body, which Tagami agreed to as he was not exactly doing manual labor in the capital, and even now Sun is not letting him do any work as she thinks he is still tired. Aunt Bahana carefully gets closer to Tagami and grabs him, which gives him the impression that she is making a move on him, but she really only wants to talk about the relationship between Tallies and Sun. She says that Tallies is only going after her because she was alone when Zashel and Tagami left, so Tagami should now do something about it before Tallies steals Sun away, but Tagami does not feel like getting in their way as even Sun likes being around Tallies. Aunt Bahana tells Tagami that Tallies is like that with every woman, as he likes to brag about how he can get a lot of women to fall for him, and even tried to come on to her, but she broke his teeth in return, which Tagami thinks is a very terrifying thing, but he agrees to do something if he can, which makes Aunt Bahana a little disappointed as she expected him to give a more manly statement. Later, while Yagami was using his ability to do something, Sun enters the house and is surprised to see Tagami there and asks what he was doing, when Tagami brings out a ring for Sun's protection from Tallies' actions from before, which first makes Sun a bit shy, but then she looks at him in an annoyed sort of way after that explanation, but then brushes off it with a smile and thank you for caring about her. At night, the festival begins with music everywhere, and Tagami being surrounded by many girls who are interested in him being an official now, and his stories about his adventures there, which Tagami says are not even that interesting. Sun is watching them from afar when Aunt Bahana comes and asks her to go join them, but Sun denies, saying that she can just ask him later in the house, so Aunt Bahana leaves when she is called by one of the villagers to refill the meat, as it is quite tasty this year that everyone is eating it up quickly. While Sun is standing alone, Tallies comes around and stands with her, seeing how Tagami is drowning in a pool of beautiful girls, and makes a comment about how popular he is, with which Sun agrees. However, he suddenly makes a suspicious expression and asks Sun to join him to grab the cold fruits from the well, and Sun agrees to do that as well. When they reach to a lone house, far away from the festival, Tallies grabs Sun and throws her on the ground violently, which shocks Sun as she does not understand why he is doing that, as Tallies then gets on top of her, indicating that she knew what was going to happen when she agreed to come with him alone, but is not able to do much to her as Sun is stronger than he thought. During the resistance, Sun manages to get him off of her and kick him in his private parts that make him drop to the ground in pain. Turns out, this strength was the doing of the ring of strength Tagami gave Sun earlier in the day, and then she gets back to the festival, exposing Tallies' actions to the villagers who say that they will deal with him accordingly. However, as she goes to Tagami, he is still drowning in the pool of women, but she just watches from afar as she kisses the ring he gave her, thinking about him in a happy manner. In Blue Garden, the Queen promoted Zashel to the important role of the Divine Arts Chief, and now Zashel will be in direct control of the people of the Queen. He must prove his loyalty to her and the people by working for the benefit of them. This decision, as expected, caused the people of Blue Garden to split into two different groups, as there was disagreement on this decision to appoint Zashel to such a high seat. Around the time of the Harvest Festival on Rufk Village, Zashel returned to Paula with the sacred treasure made by Tagami and claimed that it was given to him by the Queen, and created a party called Reflecting Water, which worked on behalf of the Queen and began adding people to it. People who were tired of Isipnar's rule quickly joined it, while people who were doubtful of it stayed, which meant that Isipnar still had the majority numbers, but people who liked the previous king went for the party. Vormist says that Reflecting Water has already been getting army members and nobles at a fast rate, and they will keep on increasing. So Isipnar asks him where they will set up base, to which Vormist replies saying that it will most likely be in the empty rooms of this. but they will hide themselves. Isipnar realizes that they can attack them, but it will not be quiet, and now they cannot kill the queen. He worries that if they did kill her now, people will obviously suspect him, and if the numbers of reflecting water keeps growing, the queen will gain enough power to fire his commanders. Isipnar thinks that they can just call the queen mad by bringing her treatment of powerless on the table. But killing Zashel is now easier rather than labeling him as a spy, since he is in a position of power and his death can be covered up by calling it a conflict of interest. On the other hand, Fonclank showed signs of movements at the border, but Isipnar is annoyed at King Svobis' dislike of war, so he just wants more eyes there. Isipnar asks Vormist about the spy on Zashel, which Vormist says managed to get into the party without getting caught. Vormist calls Plasha a decoy to only get close to Zashel, who will later be taken care of by the ice woman Paula. Isipnar just warns him to not waste time doing this so that his efforts are not wasted as well. At the Rufk village, Tagami is suddenly called to the palace without notice, which gets him annoyed, which is when Sun runs up to him, grabs his arm, and happily tells him that it is okay to leave for now, which surprises Aunt Bahana and Fonk, but both for different reasons. They then exchange farewells and Tagami departs for the palace, which he reaches very quickly by customizing the buggy. On his way, he sees many more buggies and figures it is a serious situation, and when he reaches the palace, Volet runs and hugs him cheerfully because she now knows that Zashel is on their side after all. Krival then informs Tagami that due to the new party led by Zashel growing up there in Blue Garden, they expect it to cause a lot of disturbance there, so Fonclank is getting more of its army near the border, and now they need to build a new fortress on the site of Gearhawk. Krival further adds that they wish to put knights on that site in case they need to send them into Blue Garden for help, and a party has already been sent in advance to the site to make sure the necessary things are ready and reach there safely. He then gives Tagami and his team a mission to reach the site tomorrow morning and complete the fortress and any other buildings that are important, which Tagami accepts and gets ready, all while Volet is still hanging on to him. As Tagami leaves with Votel hanging onto him, Fonk asks Krival if he is fine with that since he did not realize, and rues after the princess who laughs at him. Zashel, meanwhile, gets on the upper road and starts to see how things are doing when he is greeted by one of the locals. He uses the power of the sacred treasure to heal everyone of their tiredness and gives them energy, which surprises Plasha as she realizes how strong of a power he has been given. Zashel suddenly notices something and quickly goes back in, where he receives information about how a new Dianol's fortress is being created at the site of Gearhawk, and Tagami will also be taking part in this one. Zashel admits that all of this is going to fast for his predictions, and a lot of things have been built up even at his side. He readies himself for Isipnar's move, and decides to visit the queen, whilst worrying about Tagami being dragged into all of this. He looks at the window to see dark clouds and guesses that it will rain tomorrow. Now, during the departure to the new fortress building mission, Tagami is joined by Hividir, as he claims to help him due to both being fiancé candidates to the princess, and hopes that nothing too serious happens during this mission, as he is fine with just enough fight for him to be recognized for his achievements, and they all depart. At the site of the Gearhawk fortress, few spies from the Blue Garden hide behind some rocks, keeping an eye on the building of a new fortress on the border, and as they are busy wondering if Fonclank plans to invade them, Tagami arrives there with his team, which one of the spies sees through his monocular. The leader of the spies tells his partner to go and tell Paula about Tagami's arrival on site, and the rest will observe if the talks about him able to build very large buildings in an instant are true, but they are still not sure about those talks being true. However, the spy with the monocular sees the Fonclank team moving away their tents from where Tagami is, as he stands there with his hands raised in front of him. The spies wonder if that is how Fonclank is going to invade Blue Garden, but in a moment they see Tagashi creating a very big hole underground, and then in another he creates the fortress on top of the hole. Hividir is there with him to see it as well, Although he is also not sure how his power works, Fonk trusts Tagami to do a good job as he happily moves to the side. All of the spies, including Fonklank's own army, get shocked to see that the talks about his powers were actually true, as they also see other buildings getting built instantly as well. Seeing this level of divine arts, the spies know now that this is something they need to take very seriously, and worried asks their messenger to tell this to the command. While Fonk praises how good Tagami's divine arts is, Tagami sees Ifoka worried and asks her what is wrong, to which she says that she has a feeling of someone watching them, which Fonk brushes off as just some blue garden guys watching them as they are doing this close to the border. But Ifoka thinks that it is different than a wind artist observing their traces. To calm the situation, Fonk tells Ifoka that they will be safe in the fortress, and if she is more worried, she can stay in Captain Tagami's room, which makes her feel embarrassed, while Tagami thinks about what she said. In the city of Paula, treatment of the powerless is in a very bad state, as a girl cries about her sister Nella being crushed to death underneath a broken wall, but no one helps or cares about her, even though the girl Plow cries her eyes out for her sister. They just ask her to be a good girl and say goodbye to her sister, which is why the Reflecting Water, the new party created by Zashel under the Queen's name, is working towards the betterment of treatment of the powerless in the city of Paula, just like the Queen does in Kofta. These changes about the powerless getting some rights to live and being considered human at least will definitely bring about a lot of panic and fights, but the people of Paula are starting to agree with this idea. Plasha seems tired from spying on Zashel all the time. As they sit on a table sharing a meal and seeing her face, Zashel asks what is wrong with her, so she just tells him that she was thinking about how a new fortress was built near the border, but Zashel tells her that it is the Diana's fortress, but it is not something that will start an issue. Paula tries confirming with Zashel if there really is no problem, to which he replies saying that the man that leads the Dark God Squad does not like fighting, so he will not do anything unless something is done to him. But Paula thinks to herself that even her sister did not like fighting and still died. Zashel is aware of Paula being a spy, so he decides to use her to spread the information about Tagami's peaceful nature. However, he knows that Isipnar will not give up his position that easily. As they silently continue their meal, at the new fortress, Tagami sees Ifoka on the balcony. Looking in the distance in a rainy weather, he calls her out, which surprises her, so he asks why she reacted like that, to which she replies that she was trying to find the gazes she felt before. Tagami tells her that the other wind artists said that they did not feel anything, but Ifoka still feels like there is someone out there in the rainy weather, though they are keeping their distance for now, unlike the first day, so Tagami asks her how the wind artists even find people like this, which she explains that they can find the changes in the movement of even the air, which tells them that there is something which Tagami thinks is similar to a radar from his world. Tagami confirms with Ifoka if she can even sense the presence of powerless people, unlike other divine artists, which says she can since she grew up around powerless people, and so she has a feel to their presence, which makes her mind click that the feeling she was getting all this time was of powerless people, which alerts Tagami as he asks if they are here right now. She is confused though, as she wonders how she can feel the presence of powerless people from her farm to all the way to the fortress, so they figure that there are people here who are hiding, and so Tagami makes sure the army is ready to face them. Meanwhile, in Isipnar's office, he is angry at how Zashel is the one keeping him in check, and he even knows that Plasha is working as a spy, but she is just bait for the real plan, as Vormis says. Moreover, they wonder if what Zashel says about the Dark God Squad true, since even Vormist's wind troop confirmed that the fortress really was built on the border. Isipnar plans on so many different things at once, including using Perelsha the Ice Queen while Zashel is busy with the bait, staying inside Paula to defend themselves as the forces of Fonklank does not increase more than 50 men with 20 in the Dark God Squad and 30 in the Flame God Squad. He figures that the ground would be muddy after so much rain, so using buggies to travel will be slowed down, and the fire and wind troops cannot work well in this weather either. Vormis tells Isipnar that reflecting water is sending their most loyal followers to help the queen increase her power. But that is of little concern as they have all of those followers on their pay, so when matters get out of hand, them and along with many others will side with Isipnar. Vormist further adds that their priority is to take Zashel out of the picture and steal that sacred treasure of his, but also if that is not possible, they are fine with just stealing his base, which Isipnar thinks is their best choice right now. Isipnar, knowing a good amount of people are on his side in Paula, tells Vormist to gather people and even students if he has to, for the sake of winning this war, which Vormist gladly accepts. On the 8th day of Zalnar's fire moon, a civil war broke out in the fortress city of Paula. At the fortress city Paula, conflicts and panic has spread throughout, with two sides, the Reflecting Water and Isipnar's men, fighting against each other, attacking on sight. As the army of Isipnar finds the people from Reflecting Water, they shoot each other with their own divine arts and cause destruction. In one of the rooms with the injured people, Zashel enters to understand the situation, where a girl, who warned the Reflecting Water about the upcoming attacks, lies in pain as she has been shot on her shoulder, and so he takes matters into his own hands and uses his sacred treasure powers to heal her very quickly, which lets the doctors heal the other patients. Zashel worries that Tagami might not be able to make it here on time, as Isipnar plans to wipe them all out as quickly as possible. But the girl he just healed looks at him in a suspicious way while he is busy thinking. In Isipnar's office, he asks Vormist about the situation, which he says is going as they planned, and Plasha, the woman Zashel just treated, was faking being hurt and conveying the information was planned by them, and so now they only need for Zashel to die. Since the Fonclank army is still collecting themselves and the roads are still muddy, it will take them a lot of time to arrive on between this war, and that is enough time for Zashel to be killed, whose dead body will be returned to them, as revenge for the Gearhawk defeat Isipnar faced. He has an evil smile on his face as his plan is all going too perfectly. While all of this goes down, Tagami sleeps in his room when Aisha comes running in the room by slamming the door open, instant waking Tagami up, who then gets to know by her that the Reflecting Water and Isipnar's men are fighting in Paula, and that they have made their move, which shocks Tagami. He quickly gets ready and marches out front where all of his and the Fire God squad are gathered, with Hividir welcoming him to make a grand speech before battle. Tagami passes this opportunity and straight up asks Fonk about their carts which will take them to the battle, which annoys Hividir as he wanted him to encourage the soldiers, plus it is Hividir's first battle. Tagami tells him to take up on that responsibility, as the preparations get completed. Tagami and his army then move out on his command, but an hour has already passed since the civil war started in Paula, and news of the carts used to travel by Fonclank army is reported to Isipnar as they approach closer to the fortress city. Isipnar is surprised to see how they so quickly got ready to come in between the battle, but holds himself together as he knows they have Tagami on their side, who can create very large buildings in just a second. He orders his troops to get on top of the Paula fortress walls and hold the Fonclank army there, as these walls are strong enough to hold them, which will give them an advantage for the time being. As they reach the foot of the walls, a few meters further, Tagami realizes how bad the roads are currently, and they cannot contact the Reflecting Water, since all the winds coming from their side are for locating the enemy. Tagami decides to follow the plan to just go for an all-out attack, when Vormal tells him that there is an army placed on top of the walls of the fortress. They decide not to do anything about the army on top of the walls for now, since it is easier for the army to shoot them with arrows and divine arts from up there. And seeing how there is a lot of flashing of spells in the windows, the fight continues inside as well. Tagami asks whether the materials have arrived, which Fonk brought, but complains that they were too heavy, that is why it slowed him down, grabbing his neck in pain. Using those materials, he creates a tall line that connects them directly to the wall, which shocks the army on top of the wall as they did not see that coming. Seeing that light attached to the wall, Vormist commands his troops to fire everything they have to destroy it, but none of the divine arts like wind, fire, and ice crystals work on it. Vormist gets annoyed by Tagami's divine arts, which shines when activated, and tries to figure out the reason behind this light, which does not take too long to be revealed, as right after their failed attempt to destroy the light, Tagami uses it to remove the front face of the wall, exposing everything that is inside the strong fortress very easily. Seeing at how they got such an amazing chance to attack, Fonk bursts into laughter while Aisha tells him to focus on the battle, and Tagami, very calm but confused, tells them to attack. The attacks begins from Fonklank's army. As the Blue Garden army tries to protect themselves from them, one of the water divine arts user asks Tagami to tell the reflecting water that they are here to help them, which Tagami does using Ifoka's help by increasing the level of his voice that reaches everyone. Though his speech fell short since he has no experience in giving speeches, regardless, Tagami tells his army that they will now begin to help reflecting water and take down the annoying Supreme Commander Isabnar of the Blue Garden. But Hividir and Vormal call him out, saying that this was not really enough to motivate. The attack begins once more, and the Blue Garden army is forced to retreat into hiding without their support, as they are too open without a wall protecting them, and Fonklank's army is too much. Suddenly, Ifoka alerts Tagami that she is feeling the same presence of the powerless she felt back at the fortress, so Tagami tells his army to watch their backs. But some wind users tell him that they do not feel any presence like Ifoka says, even back then. This makes Ifoka sad, but Tagami pats her and tells the other wind arts users that it is a command, which Tine immediately follow, and makes Ifoka realize that Tagami trusts her. Vormal sees this moment as well. Suddenly, one of the troops alert Tagami that a cavalry unit of 200 people is coming at them from the back, or directly going to where the main combat is happening, which causes panic in the army as they never got any presence of an army behind them. As the unit keeps getting closer, Tagami realizes that they are the powerless warriors as he turns around to see them all on their horses under the bright shining sun, led by King Shinha of Gazette, and here to support the Gear Hawk hero Tagami Yuyusuke, which surprises Tagami as he realizes that Shinha was the king all along, while Shinha gives a great smile. The situation around the Paula walls is as follows, as the warriors of Gazette happily introduce themselves and offer a helping hand to Tagami. The Fonklank army thinks that having a party that is unrelated to this battle may just bring more panic, as they probably do not even know about the current situation, and so even without their help, the Reflecting Water and Fonklank army can take over Paula easily, which Tagami agrees to. Tagami again uses the wind divine arts of his partners to increase his volume to convey his decision to the Gazette army that they are fine without their help, and so they should just stay where they are and work on defense. However, the Gazette army responds by saying that they are not here entirely due to just helping Tagami's army, but they also want to help their powerless brothers and sisters stuck in Blue Garden to get out, so going along with what Tagami just said is not an option. This annoys Tagami's army, as they explain to him that the Gazette army has their own reasons to be here as well, and are just using this opportunity of Fonklank invading Blue Garden as an excuse to carry out their plans. While Fonklanks and the Gazettes argue, Zashel uses the same kind of divine arts to make his voice reach all the way to them, where he openly tells the Gazettes that the Queen fully intends to protect and care for the powerless people of Blue Garden, so there is no need for them to rescue those people, and as most people that are involved in this civil war are people, he will not care for a Gazette invasion, and so they will not be considered an ally of Fonklank. While Vormal understands that Zashel thinks the same as them, this announcement removes the smile off Shinha's face, and he makes another announcement that no matter what the Blue Garden people say, or what the Queen intends to do with the powerless people, it does not matter, as Gazette will enter and take the powerless people with them. Tagami is more annoyed by this turning into an unwanted issue when Ifoka alerts him to a different unit on the side of the walls, and it is the Queen of Blue Garden, Rishalius Towel, and her army who enters the battlefield with her own conditions, which are that she will only accept Fonklank's invasion, but on a few conditions, and she does not want the Gazette to enter. The queen also calls for immediate end of the fighting, which Zashel denies and commands his party to keep fighting off the Isipnar elites, but the queen also does not move from her position and asks Isipnar to stop and help the citizens to safety. Tagami is confused as to what even is going on anymore, as the queen decides to enter into and out of the walls facing everyone involved. Hividir warns Tagami that this is a very uncomfortable situation for them, as because of Gazette's involvement in this matter, they will not be able to achieve the goal Esphobus sent them for, since if Gazette were to help and take all of the powerless people with them, defeat the divine artists by their own power, their name will become widely known and their power will increase, giving rise to the powerless people fighting against their oppressors on their own. In the reflecting water end, Zashel commands his party to increase and hold the defense so that the elites of Isipnar are not able to run away, and they should help the injured people first without moving away from each other. He is also worried that letting Gazette invade will just increase problems for the future of Blue Garden. Plus, even if they did manage to fix that issue, they will then have to fight Fonclank. In the end, it is Gazette that is the real problem, since them threatening to invade causes both Fonclank and Blue Garden to face their conflicts on a much higher level, and so working together is out of the question. Zashel is worried that Gazette and King Shinha are only doing this to change the balance of power of this world in the favor of the powerless people, and Tagami is also in trouble. On the other hand, King Shinha is aware of the fact that this battle will cause Tagami to be considered a traitor in Fonclank because he fought against the divine artists, and so if he dies in this battle or in the resistance against Fonclank, he was not good enough anyway. However, just as he thinks about if Tagami ever wanted to live on Gazette, he is told by his soldiers that they are ready to move forward with their mission, and begins moving with the help of wind artists in their squad. Hividir makes Tagami realize that this happening is partly his fault as well, since he made that promise to protect the powerless people in Sank Adiot, which is why Gazette wants him to move in with them, as the divine artists are now going to be against him and the powerless people. Fonk, worried, grabs Hividir's collar and demands to know why this is happening to Captain Tagami, but Tagami asks him to calm down as Hividir says that he has nothing to do with it. Tagami thinks about what to do now as this is all confusing for him, and he also did not expect Shinha to turn out so clever. But when Ifoka tells him that Shinha is in the squad right now, he tries talking to Shinha to stand down and talk about the improvements in the lives of powerless people later. But Shinha ignores him and tells his army to move on, whilst thinking that Tagami is no different than the rest of the divine artists' users. As the Gazette army starts to move, the Fonclank army gets into panic, as they did not have enough time to prepare for them. But Tagami, on the other hand, is furious about the fact that Shinha promised to lend a helping hand to Tagami but backstabbed him like this, and gets up on one of the buggies to use his divine arts for something, as he claims that he will now make use of being unfair in war and diplomacy perfectly. He decides to show Shinha how unfair things can really get, and so asks Vormal to secure the area around him as he does not want to be disturbed while making this strong attack from his side, which Vormal understands and acts upon. Tagami then tells Hividir to go and surround Gazette's men using his army, but Hividir hesitatingly says that his army is just a small one of 30 men, while Gazette has 100 armed men, but still accepts it due to his pride. Tagami then commands Ifoka to contact Reflecting Water and tell them to leave for the mountains and also take normal people with them, while Shade looks at Tagami and wonders how he is going to take advantage of all of this panic all over. Zashel realizes that Tagami is about to make a move, while the Ice Queen Plasha gets ready to attack him from behind, and Tagami preparing Shinha for what he is about to face as he underestimated a gamer, which is a term no one in this world knows of. Back in the hidden Gazette village, before Shinha went on to his journey, surrounded by mountains in a rather misty place, Shinha visits his grandmother, and is glad to see that she is doing well. The grandmother is an unusually young girl who is also proud to see Shinha all grown up, strong and healthy. Shinha asks her about the new revelation she must have received, and she tells him that the evil god of calamity has arrived in this world. about whom Shinha wonders that whether he is a monster or a being that is even bigger than the four gods, of which his grandmother confirms the latter, but that he is in the form of a human. She tells him the place where the evil god of calamity is currently in, which is Confronting, and so Shinha asks her if he will this time destroy the Divine Arts Society, just like he destroyed their white clan once. But the grandmother has no confirmation of the evil god's goals, except for the fact that he has a head of black hair, which Shinha takes note of. A legend that tells about how long ago an evil god came to Calcio, who brought the white clan Shinha mentioned success and strength to fight against the divine artists, which is why the white clan created shrines, places of worship, for him with black statues. But later, another god by the name Roman VI Zard came to this world and taught divine arts to the minorities who were mistreated and disrespected by the white clan in Calcio, which led to the white clan being labeled as the powerless people and were forced to run away and live in Gazette. Shinha makes a claim that he will personally go and see if this human that is black actually like the evil god, and can he bring back the white clan to power like in the old days where they used to rule. In present time, Shinha calls the queen as Rish, and when asked about what he will do about her by his troops, he says that her protection is not something that reaches far out. Even though she is doing a good job of carrying her father's dream, without him, she is just like a caged bird, as he smiles. He thinks that the reason why the queen is not letting them invade is because of her position, and so decides to take his army and charge their way in to get to the powerless people. Seeing this, both the queen and Zashel, from their positions, get worried about how they are going to stop this, and as they are clueless about what to do, Zashel hears a voice asking if he should send his troops to help the queen, and a ray of bright light comes from afar, hitting the wall like before, and creates a huge wall in between the way of Shinha and his troops, which shocks everyone. Though this is not enough to hold Shinha back, as he tells his army to just go around the wall without stopping to get to the queen, as this is probably Tagami's doing. But his army then gets closed in by the officials from Confronting led by Hividir. Seeing this, Shinha thinks that he cannot let his troops die without reason by splitting his current army in half, so he commands them to release the riders in the back and waits for Tagami's response to this new course of action. Seeing that the riding troop of Gazette's army is closing in the distance, Confronting's army gets worried that they cannot fight against the 40 of them, when only half of their soldiers can actually fight, so Aisha suggests Tagami that they should bring back their unit of officials that they sent ahead. But Tagami denies it as he claims they still have some time, while focusing on using his divine arts to create a very large and hard surface for everyone to get on. Tagami once again shouts for confirmation if everyone got on the pavement, the surface he just created, because now he is going to the same thing he did back in Sank 80th, which is to be able to move everyone that is on a customizable surface. He presses the confirmation on his divine arts screen and moves his entire unit to where the queen's army is, and this angers Shinha as he is shocked to see Tagami moving so many people at once, instantly to a different position to escape. Gazette's army worries that they might be attacked from the sides, so Shinha commands them to call back the riding force of their army, while he thinks to himself that he cannot let Tagami go without taking back the evil god with him to Gazette. So he decides to call out to his messenger and tell him something about Sun, who is very close to Tagami. Meanwhile, Tagami approaches the queen's army very casually and asks them to move back to the mountain, even though he knows they came here in such hurry. The queen's army gets angry about Tagami calling them to retreat, thinking he is calling them weak, but the queen understands that the Dark God Squad might be powerful enough to handle this situation, so it is no problem to leave this to them, and commands her army to head back to the mountain by passing through the wall. Tagami then sees someone waving to him from a window on the wall, and quickly starts his divine arts again, while understanding the situation that the queen's army is now leaving for the mountains. Hividir's army is behind Gazette's army and is moving around the wall, while the Gazette army is trying to reunite with their riding unit. Tagami gets ready to his signal to the army led by Hivdori, while the soldiers inside the wall are currently in a state of confusion. They wonder if this fight is even the right thing to do, while some force them to focus on the enemy. One of the soldiers gives up, even asking the others to kill him if they want, because he does not understand why they are fighting the Queen's army or even the Fonclank's army, since they are protecting them by making that huge wall on between. The soldiers understand now that the Queen was not even confused about her goals before, and neither was unsure of any of the decisions she just took, so it only makes sense that Isipnar's statement cannot be true, when suddenly the giant wall in front of the wall starts to glow as Tagami uses his divine arts on it, which shocks the entire battlefield. While Tagami is customizing the giant wall in front of him, the Gazette army tries to take advantage of it by approaching it with their huge numbers, but at that exact moment, Tagami gets ready with his ability and activates the changes he just made to the wall, which starts to glow even brighter than before, increasing in both height and length, and then starts to go around the area where the entire Gazette army is currently standing. As they all look at it changing and moving, the Gazette army stays stunned in one place, confused as to what the wall is going to do, when they realize that Tagami is going to use the wall to trap them in between it, which actually what happens when the wall completes a full circle and connects its both ends around them, trapping them in it. Shinha realizes that he made an error in his decisions, as he never thought that Tagami's divine arts can be used for much more other than just moving an entire army unit from one place to another, and so is now stuck here since this situation is not one where he can get out of normal thinking. While the battlefield is at a pause, Isipnar angrily grabs the paper plan and orders his army to collect the remaining elites and take advantage of the panic caused after the battle right now, and plans on creating even more panic amongst the regular people of Blue Garden by telling them that it is such a bad image of them because the Queen took help from Fonclank's army in this battle against the Gazettes, and he will later have Zashel killed by Plasha after the truth comes out that he is a spy. Despite Isipnar being confident in what he is saying and what he can do, his hands start to shake a lot as he touches a glass of water, showing that he is very nervous about this entire situation, and so he, worried, shouts questions about the elites being regrouped, calling from reports by his messengers, searching for Vormist as he needs him to be with him right now, all so he can take away the Queen's support in this battle. He calls out to Vormist one last time, as he realizes that no one is coming to help him, as he has lost the war, and his plans had no chance of being carried out anymore. He would soon be captured by the Reflective Water Party and hope to be forgiven and let go depending on how the Queen treats him, while Vormist has been completely disappeared. After the battle, Zashel is called to the Parliament by a messenger, asking him to lead the talks as that would fix the problems quicker that way, and Zashel also hopes that this will now bring Blue Garden and Fonclank closer. However, when Zashel turns around, moving towards a window, he is approached secretly by the ice woman Plasha, who touches the back of Zashel, where notices it a bit too late as she uses her power to freeze his heart, leaving him shocked and unable to do anything. The reason why Plasha is able to carry out such killings without any expressions is because she was met with an accident as a child, which caused her to lose her sense of touch. But since she was such an amazing and skilled divine arts user, she took advantage of this and became an assassin, since this condition would normally be very dangerous for a regular person. And so, due to her being expressionless and so skilled, she is called the Ice Woman. After she touched Zashel and used her ability to freeze his heart, Plasha starts to walk away thinking she has completed her mission of killing Zashel. But when she turns around, Zashel grabs her hand and makes a sarcastic comment about disappointing her, as she looks troubled about the fact that he is still okay after getting his heart frozen. She tries to fight back using her divine arts, but is not fast enough as Zashel activates his ability through the hand he is touching her with, saying that it is now her turn to feel the same, which she does on an extreme level, enough to make her scream and pass out right on the spot. Two troops come running towards them because of the screams and ask Zashel about what happened here, so they tell them that he just found dealt with a secret killer, and the reason he was saved was because of the special protective ring Tagami made using the material King Esphobus gave to him. but the ring broke as it took all of the damage from Plasha's attack instead of letting Zashel deal with it. The guards ask Zashel if she is dead, so he tells them that he was not able to kill her as she was stronger than expected, even when he tried to attack her blood vessels. He then thinks about the time he healed her and realizes how her nerves were different even back then, and so the shock from the current attack gave her a feeling of pleasure instead of pain. He is surprised to see Plasha being happy even after knocked out of her senses, seeing how she is smiling from ear to ear with a relaxed expression. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, near the wall that Tagami created to trap Shinha, he goes there to give Shinha a scolding when he sees him talking to the queen at a distance. The queen argues with Shinha about why he started this pointless battle and shouts at him if he ever knows what he is doing. Shinha replies, saying that his big moment did not go as planned because he did not think that the Dark God Squad would be this strong. The queen, or as Shinha calls her Rish, asks him hesitatingly his plan was to destroy her, which he denies, saying that all he wanted was to free her. Rish gets mad at him since she thinks that Shinha thinks of her as a caged bird waiting to be free. Tagami, seeing all this, thinks that they both are lovers and are having an argument, so he just watches from afar for now. One of the officials of the queen shouts angrily at Shinha for saying those words to a queen, and when Shinha tries to calm her down saying that they are old friends, that official of the queen calls him a lowly powerless, like how the world thinks of them in anger, which makes Shinha burst into laughter, saying how even the closest people to the queen think of them in such a disgusting way. The queen disappointingly looks at the official that shouted such bad words out, while the other official corrects her saying that while the queen is fighting for betterment and freedom of the powerless people, one of the closest people to her is still talking about them in such a poor way. The official that shouted stupidly takes her words back and tries to explain herself that she only said that because he was being disrespectful to the queen and calls him a prisoner when Shinha tells her that he is the king of Gazette. Shinha corrects her, saying that he lost to the Dark God Squad, but never even came close to fighting the queen's army, which leaves the annoying official speechless. Rish corrects Shinha, saying that they were only getting help from Fonklank's army, but Shinha quickly asks her if King Esphobus thinks the same as her, making a point that she will not be able to make Fonklank or the reflecting water get out of Blue Garden that easily, which makes Rish realize that he was right about her being a bird in a cage in this situation. He then asks her what she will do with the Gazette army, and so she commands her army to let the Gazette army go, but make sure they leave the region, and makes Shinha promise that he will not ever come between her problems until she fails to complete her father's dream, to which Shinha agreed to and decides to only watch over her for the time being. He then makes a comment about how Rish's personality has not changed at all, but she is now more beautiful than ever, which makes the queen shy, and she starts to speak on an informal manner and tries to end the conversation by asking her army to take off their handcuffs. But as she says that, the divine artists in her army starts making disrespectful comments about the powerless people acting all high and mighty, which upsets Shinha, so he decides to make a final warning to the queen's army before leaving, which is that the powerless people only use the weapons as a tool because they can still fight without them, as all of them break through their handcuffs with absolute strength, shocking the queen, as Shinha quickly gets really close to her and gently touches her hair and kisses it. As he leaves, making a comment on how innocent she still is, leaving the queen embarrassed about the situation, the smart one of the two officials realizes that he just now showed everyone that he could have taken the queen if he wanted, but did not, while the other annoying official just shouted angrily to get away from the queen. As Shinha is about to leave, Tagami calls out to him. Shinha praises Tagami for using his divine arts to beating him and his army so easily, but Tagami does not care about that as he continues to shout at him, saying that this has just created more problems for him because he had to use his powers a lot more than necessary, and also the fact that Shinha lied about returning the favor by helping him, when all he did was make the situation harder. Shinha thinks about why Tagami is so confidently calling him out on his actions, and whether if that is because he won this battle, or he is just that straightforward. Shinha tells Tagami that he does have plans to help him, but only when he starts to do his job as the evil god properly, which shocks Tagami as he wonders how Shinha even knows about this. Shinha further adds that Tagami's existence is very important to this entire country, but it is still not strong enough as the history of Shinha's people is over 1,000 years old and their want for revenge is much higher. The smart official of the queen hears this and wonders what the evil god means when Shinha makes a shocking statement that for his white clan to be able to rise again, the world of the divine artists need to be destroyed, and that will happen when the evil god comes into the world. The queen worries about what Shinha is saying, but Tagami asks him about why can they not just live together in peace, and sarcastically asks if there is a rule that one side should always be destroyed while the other rises. Shinha answers him saying that the divine artists destroyed them in the past, which helped them grow. But now if they destroy the divine artists, they will grow. Tagami, annoyed, asks if this never-ending cycle is something Shinha is okay with, which Shinha agrees to, saying that this is just the fact, and there is no permanent happiness for either side. This is how Calcio has always been. While Tagami wonders why Shinha is so fixed on this troubling fact, Shinha tells him that he will be waiting for Tagami to come to the village in Gazette that holds all of the facts about the evil god, but when a trop of his comes and whispers something in his ear, Shinha tells Tagami that he is invited right now and they will happily welcome him. Shinha then commands his army to take their leave, and he also goes away with them, while Tagami stays stunned in one place wondering what Shinha meant about his existence. After this intense conversation, later in the day, Plasha wakes up and sees that the battle has ended, and the world in front of her has changed a lot, as she walks around the city and sees many things. When she reaches the top of the walls of Paula, she realizes that her teacher Zashel has won, and there is nothing for her to do when she sees a young man with black hair and eyes standing in front of her, staring at the sky, and wonders if he is the hero of the Gear Hawk Fortress event. As Plasha stares blankly at the black hair and black eyes, hero of the Gear Hawk Fortress event, Tagami notices her and tells her that she does not need to fear him, which makes Plasha nervous as she denies that she was not scared of him, which Tagami understands, and then there is a moment of silence. Plasha wonders how the feel and looks of Tagami are weird, but he still seems like a normal human being, and so she asks him if he is actually the hero of Gear Hawk Fortress event, which Tagami says he is not sure of it, calling it a mistake as he killed people over there, unlike now where he just captured all of them alive, while he looks of in the distance. He tells her that it has been some time since that happened, so talking about it does not matter. But Plasha still asks him about why he killed those people, to which he replies with saying that he was not calm enough in that situation. Neither he had the time to think about it fully. Hearing him say that, she regrets the fact that if it was as easy to capture them as Tagami says, then her sister would still be alive. So she asks him why did he not, to which Tagami instantly replies saying that he was afraid to die himself. Plasha, confused, asks if he is serious about that, seeing how he is the hero of the Gear Hawk Fortress event, but he again tells her that he is just a normal human after all, with a smile. This makes Plasha believe him as she honestly asks him about what truly happened at that fortress. So he starts with the fact that a lot of Von Clank's worker and soldiers died on the Gear Hawk Fortress, long before they reached on site, and so she realizes that even her sister took part in the killings of so many people, and she actually knew nothing of the reality. But Tagami adds that he tried to offer respect to the dead bodies by properly taking care of them, no matter who they were, even if it was just to make himself feel better about the situation. Plasha realizes that her sister's body was brought to her in such a careful way because Tagami prepared it himself, and while she is thinking about that, Fonk screams at Tagami from the bottom of the walls, teasing him about picking up girls from the local area. But Tagami immediately screams back, denying it by saying that he is not like him, and tells Plasha that he has to leave now, who thanks him for telling her all about the Gear Hawk Fortress event with an impressed face. Back at Sank Idiot's castle, return of Tagami is announced in the castle, which makes people praise him for first winning at Gear Hawk, now Diurnals, and now even in Blue Garden. Hearing this news, Volet and Sun come running to meet Tagami very happily. As they all reunite, Tagami asks Volet why Sun is here when she lives at the village, so she says that she thought that Sun would be bored waiting, and so she called her here to talk more about Zashel, as she also wanted company. Hividir tries to get Volet to notice her by telling how he has finished his mission and came back, but she brushes him off, saying that her father would be so proud of him doing his job. As Sun and Volet takes away Tagami to hear about his stories of his mission, Hividir wonders, looking at Sun, why is a powerless girl here? Which makes him wonder how King Shinha and his army of Gazette seemed like the type of people who fight to the death instead of talking things out, making them look like neither a proper army nor a bunch of criminals, but something in between. He also reflects on how Shinha wanted Tagami to go with them, as his divine arts are really powerful, which would give them an advantage, whilst looking at the amazingly effective ring given to him by Tagami. He then decides to not let the other fiancé candidates of Volet do anything bad with him, since Tagami seems like he does not really care about getting ahead of them in this race, but rather he is a unique and curious person to be with, and then leaves off to go see the king and find out what his reward is. Later, Tagami and Sun, alone on a buggy, travel back to their village, and on their way, they discuss about their days. Tagami asks her if she is tired right now, seeing how Volet was dragging her all around the palace, but Sun says that she enjoyed all of that and seems happy that he gets to ride with Tagami alone since it has been a while. He seems calm knowing that she is now with him, as she had to spend a lot of time in between divine artists, especially since she was with the most important of them all these days. She agrees, saying that some people there did not like her being there, but Volet never left her side, so it was all good, which makes Tagami ask her if she is getting used to being around divine artists. So she tells him that she is not as scared of them as she was in the start. Plus, she feels safe with being Tagami, just like she did with Dr. Hall and Zashel, which makes them share a shy moment. As soon as they reach the village, Aunt Bahana comes running, checking up on how they both are doing, so Tagami tells, in a very flat tone, her that he is fine, but why does she look so worried? So she tells him that while he was busy fighting at Paula, some soldiers from the Gazette army came to the village and asked about where Sun was. Though fortunately, Sun was taken away to the palace by Volet, which the villagers told those soldiers, which made the soldiers a little annoyed, as they thought that the palace people guessed their actions, so they offered the villagers a better life in Gazette, if they are not okay with their current lives in the village. But everyone thought that Dr. Zashel's efforts have kept them in good condition, and even Tagami is doing amazing for them, but one of them looked guilty. Aunt Bahana tells them that there are news of this happening in other powerless villages as well, but the news did not reach far as it was being limited by the Gazette soldiers. This makes Tagami realize that Shinha took back his invitation because he always planned on forcing him to visit the village. While Sun is confused about what Tagami is thinking about so seriously, he is piecing together the puzzles about Shinha, who first went from inviting him to Gazette, then thinking about kidnapping Sun as a hostage, and then calling Tagami the evil god, which makes it clear that he does not care what it will take until the society ruled by divine artists is destroyed. Tagami wonders about his reason being born to this world, and if his questions will be answered by going to Gazette, which he decides to talk about with Dr. Zashel. In the city of Paula, Zashel gives his sacred treasure to the queen as he decides to leave and return to Fonclank. The queen wonders if he is serious about just leaving like this, but Zashel gives her peace by telling her with confidence that Fonclank does not wish to attack them, and this sacred treasure is for her, as things will be even more troubling from now on for her. She asks him about what King Esphobus will do if she does not turn Blue Garden into a society of levels like Fonclank, but Zashel tells her that he will not do it, regardless of she changing her country, even if he has a reason to, and so asks her if such a king is bad to have around when there is someone completely different to him, referring to King Shinha, which makes the queen worried. The queen very disappointingly accepts the fact that she will have to fight Shinha one day, but Zashel tells her to not worry, as it is going to happen since Tagami is important to everyone right now, and so she should decide the best way to fight this battle out. Zashel walks down the hall and reaches a room, but when he opens the door to it, he finds Plasha in a dark room, staring blankly. It was Isipnar's office, so Zashel asks her what she is doing here as Vormist and Isipnar are no longer here, which she flatly replies to that she has nowhere else to go. Zashel understands her and touches her, which makes her realize that her sense of touch has returned, which surprises her. So he gives her a new option, and upon hearing it, she goes into deep thought. After Plasha, Zashel finds Plasha aimlessly walking around in the town with a sad look on her face, and realizes that she must have come to an agreement with Tagami after he saw her meeting him a short time ago, and so claims that Blue Garden will change starting from this moment. With Isipnar and his harsh system gone, and the powerless people getting rights and respect as humans, a lot of people will get stressed about the situation, with some even seeking professional help, and this is only just the beginning of problems for the Queen to overcome. Plasha then turns around and sees Zashel, but gives him her goodbyes as she waves to him. Back at Rafk village, Zashel comes back along with Plasha, who accepted his offer, who are then greeted by Sun and Tagami very happily as he came back after so long, but they immediately get confused to see Plasha with him, as they have never met her before. Zashel responds cheerfully to their greetings, while Plasha says hi in a very shy way. Even the villagers are amazed by what a beautiful lady Zashel has brought with him from Blue Garden, when Plasha introduces herself to them. Later, when they settle down in Dr. Ken Zashel's home, he explains everything to Sun and Tagami, and how Plasha came with him after Blue Garden being changed under the Queen's leadership, so he could not leave Plasha as a prisoner over there. Plus, she agreed to come with him herself, and also asked the Queen for permission, which she gave them. Plasha, being an assassin, was also able to break out of the jail room anyways, so there was no point in leaving her there, which makes Tagami excited as he hears her being so skilled, but Zashel tells him that she did not like that lifestyle, while Plasha feels the hot cup of drink in her hands. Tagami confirms with Zashel that he actually used all of the panic to actually do something like this, so he replies saying that water divine arts are for both killing or healing, but changes the subject right after when Tagami tells him that a few of Gazette's soldiers came to this village while they were all gone, which Zashel immediately recognizes as King Shinha's men, and tells his wish of visiting the flamed land of the White Clan that is said to have 3,000 years worth of history with them. Tagami adds that he also wants to learn his role about him being the evil god by visiting that place, but only if he gets permission, as he is part of a squad that serves the royal palace. But then again, Shinha will not forget about him, and may take Sun with him for real the next time, which Zashel is surprised to hear as he believes Shinha to be a king, and this behavior is not like that of a king's, while Sun happily stands out the door. Tagami then gives up on this thought, as he believes that Volet will send him to Gazette one of these days on a mission, and then thinks about what Shinha might be planning to do with him, since he does not feel like an enemy or even a hater, which is when he thinks about this being like a game where someone takes a hero's powers to either become stronger themselves or bring back a dead person. Tagami makes a statement that if anything were to happen to Sun, he would actually destroy a lot of things and cause panic, which Zashel immediately turns down as he states that he cannot let him do something so horrible, while Sun looks at the confused. Then Zashel suggests that they should send Sun to Sank Idiot, but Tagami says that it will just be the same as here, which gets immediately countered by Zashel saying that Tagami should use one of his rewards for these missions to get a house for Sun in the upper level of the nobles, whilst drinking his hot drink. Tagami thinks about it and asks Sun if she would like to go along with this plan, which Sun happily agrees to as long as she gets to stay with Tagami, and also because she does not want to trouble him, plus Dr. Zashel got an assistant, Plasha, with him now to take care of him. Being all shy and happy about this, Tagami tells her that he will go to the palace tomorrow and call Sun there when everything is taken care of, but Sun notices their faces and asks if they thought something else of her statement about living together. At night, Sun stands in the fields alone, when Tagami comes out and notices her, so he calls out to her and she looks back at him. They ask if either of them could not sleep, and then stands side by side when Tagami asks her what she was thinking about, staring at the moon, so she tells him that she might just be extra load for him to carry, as even when she lived alone with Dr. Zashel, she did not do much important things to take care of him, and so Tagami understands her point and thinks about how he can find a role or a job for Sun where she can feel independent and not worry about being a load when she does her job. Sun thinks she just made Tagami worried about her more and apologizes, but Tagami denies it, saying that this gives him a chance to even think more about how he can help people close to him with their abilities like his teammates, which Sun asks him if it really does not worry him. He assures her and tells her to just worry about it when they settle at the palace, since Volet is always giving them such a good treatment. As they happily make up and look at each other with loving eyes, Aunt Bahana, Zashel and Plasha see all of this, whilst hiding in the bushes a little far away, and in her drunken state, Aunt Bahana complains about why Tagami and Sun just do not kiss already, and Zashel claims that they just might not be at that stage right now, whilst Plasha drinks with him. The next day, at the palace of San Idiot, Tagami is happily living inside his home, which he finally now owns personally, and tries out moving a new toy around by using his abilities, as he always used it for serious reasons. And when the toy manages to move around on its own, he gets all excited about it, since in the game it is just for fun, but in this world it can be used for useful matters, when Volet suddenly enters his room and gets surprised to see a toy horse moving on its own, before she could say anything to Tagami. Her way of excitement makes Tagami question her being a princess, which she replies to saying that she thought a ghost was controlling the toy. Tagami asks why she thinks that, so she tells him about a story that says that San Idiot is built upon a buried city and ghosts come out of it every night, with a very scary face. She adds that it used to be just an old story, but now people complain about kids being lost and weird whispers heard around the town at night, while some strange people disappear on the edges of the town. Tagami confirms with her that is it really the ghosts that are doing it, which she says that might be a possibility, and so this matter needs to be looked into, as she excitedly gives this job to the Dark God Squad, and Tagami accepts it hesitatingly. As Volet tells Tagami about the disappearance of small kids at night, strange whispering people have heard, and weird ways the locals disappear in close spaces of the town needs to be looked into, she chooses to give this job to his Dark God Squad, right before she is dragged out of his room by Kreval, who reminds her of her practice. The next day, Tagami tells his teammates of the Dark God Squad about the mission, so everyone confirms this news to him, as they have all heard about it before from either the middle-class area, where the powerless people do not talk about it, or from the singers in town that live in the middle-class area, and since this news is going around the palace for a while, it might be true. Tagami asks Aisha if she has heard anything as well, but she gets jump-scared by that question and denies it by saying that she does not pay attention to such news. Tagami realizes that she is scared from ghosts, so he offers her to stay behind for this mission, but she hesitatingly still decides to go with them. He tells her that such a state of mind is because of her fears and her imagination, as he suggests to look at the hole he saw when B was customizing this entire town. Fonk takes his chance and scares Aisha by telling her that the ghosts usually come for water artists, especially when they are healers, which first gets Aisha scared, but then starts hitting him in anger, but compared to them, Ifoka seems very calm, so Tagami asks how she is doing such well, and Ifoka replies saying that she hears a lot of things like the stored voices and cries of people that are too emotional and strong, as Gearhawk was also too much. Listening this, Tagami pats her head and apologizes for reminding her of this, which makes Ifoka extra embarrassed as she tells him to not worry. Meanwhile, Volet is spying on them using binoculars from her room in the palace, and Kreval reminds her that her teacher is waiting and she can look at the town later. Vormal tells Tagami that the level 2 area of the middle class is where that weird person vanishes, and this is where the Earth Divine Arts users live. Tagami asks why no one has looked into it before, especially when they know exactly where the problem is, but Vormal says that people are scared to come here. As all of them look down a dark alley, Tagami asks about the fact that why no complaints regarding the missing children have been filed, which Aisha responds to saying that this is why people just call it fake news. Fonk takes another chance and scares Aisha about how the children want to be found and scream for help. But the parents do not want them back, which scares Aisha, and she shouts at him to stop with Tagami, also telling him to stop being a fool, and so Fonk apologizes. Tagami then uses his ability to check the map of the area and sees a hidden tunnel in this alley, which Vormal questions as they do not see anything, and Tagami answers that a lot of new things being built around here have pushed the old buildings underground, and now the old area is like a maze. They all follow the alley together until they see light at the end of it, and find the opening to a tunnel which a comparatively new rope ladder going down it. And with clues about someone being here makes them sure that people are living underground here and the whispers just might be them talking. So Tagami suggests that some of the Dark God Squad should go down there. Ifoka, Vormal, and Tagami reach the bottom of the ladder and find themselves in an old mansion, but there is no light, so Vormal uses his fire divine arts to light the room up, as he figures out that this hole was made by someone and it is not just some break in the ground, and even this ladder was placed by them. Tagami guesses if this mansion was used by Blue Garden spies, which Vormal says that can be a possibility, so Tagami asks Ifoka to see if she can hear someone, to which she says that there was someone here some time ago, but she cannot feel anyone right now. Tagami uses his ability to see that the mansion holds everything above it like a pillar, and decides to come again tomorrow, but with more people, as they look around a little more. They go to a dark area which has a lot of pillars going right up to the roof, which amazes them, and Vormal guesses this was a high-class area before. Going further ahead, they see old buildings, even water underground, and as they cross it to get to the other side, Ifoka feels an Earth Divine Arts user. Tagami says that he always felt like some Earth artist user might be behind this, and so questions if they are the person who created that hole. Vormal shouts to ask the person to come out, who from a dark room asks them who are they, which Vormal replies to saying that they work for government, and they were here to look into the weird hole they found. As he hears that they are from the government, the man quickly jumps out of the room, scared, and drops to the ground, but Tagami commands him to first tell them his name and what his work is here. The man tells that his name is Solzak, and he lives in the middle-class area, and he works at an item shop, but came down here to learn about this city's history. Though Solzak recognizes the black-haired young man Tagami from the time where he and Zashel were almost captured, but Zashel gave them an interesting lesson on the evil god, which Tagami never realized before. Solzak tells then that since he only goes out at night to eat food and then come back here again, he did not know that Tagami had been working for the government. Vormal and Tagami realizes that he must be the strangely dressed man of the fake news and comment on how old his clothes are, while Solzak keeps going about how the old area of town has buildings different to what they are used to. So when he found a map for this place, he came here and it was so fun, which Tagami gets. Vormal commands him that while this is fine, Solzak needs to report this back to the government, but Tagami just cares about the weird person case being solved, but then asks Solzak about the voices that people hear, which Solzak guesses might be the children. He tells them that there is a drainage area on the other side of this town, and there is a way to enter underground near there. Plus, there are many new things underground, like more poorer areas under the lower levels which the government does not know about. Vormal again commands him to tell them all about the many underground entries, which he nervously accepts, while he asks them to let him be for now at least, as he looks towards Tagami, who happily accepts it, and tells him that he can deal with this problem all on his own, and that he will bring a lot more people tomorrow to take care of places underground that might cause trouble. Solzak adds that he did not think that people would just think of this, the work of ghosts, when illegal pleasure workers, or people who want to live here, use the more small underground areas, and some children who use these areas as playground, or to hide pets from parents which they do not let them keep. He even says that a type of bird called feral kina lived here after escaping from farms. Everyone then starts to leave as they discuss different matters about the situation, like how the ghost case will be solved now. But the people who are actually living underground might be hard to ask to leave and live on the surface, while Fonk is just interested in the bird meat he just heard of. As Tagami reaches out the tunnel, Aisha jumps at him, all worried and crying about the fact that she was not contacted at all, for which he apologizes, while Shade complains about Aisha talking all the time. But then Tagami clears things up, saying how there are no ghosts because it was Solzak who was going up and down the underground area. Aisha gets mad at him for causing such problems and wasting her day looking into something like this, but Tagami calms her down, saying that they found new problems to take care of in the city now due to going underground, which almost makes her feel okay. But Fonk again comments on how scared she was, which makes her burst into anger. As Solzak sees Aisha running after Fonk and everyone smiling about it, he is surprised to see how there is no care between them about their levels in society, and he finds it unusual for government people. He looks at Tagami and wonders if it is because of him, and then realizes that a lot of things changed while he was underground. Back at the palace in Tagami's room, he tells Volet that there were not ghosts, but only children who made such noises whilst playing underground, and all the other fake news were like that too. Volet sounds a little disappointed, but she gets excited about the underground city and thinks of exploring it, and while Tagami wonders about it, Volet asks him to make a bigger form of the disc she is playing with. But Tagami says that she would not be able to ride it even if it is big, which makes her back down. She then asks about the trolley with wheels he has, but he says that it only moves when it does not have any load on it, since it has just enough power to move on its own, and the wheels do not turn when loaded. He then gives the wheels ability turn after they have been loaded and tries by sitting in it by using a remote control, as it seems safe for now, but it does not work with him on it, but moves around without weight. Volet says that she is lighter than him in weight, so she tries it, as Tagami tells her how to move about using the remote, and when she tries it, it starts to move with her, which makes her all excited since she figured out the issue. But her excitement makes her go out into the hall riding this, but Tagami stops her since she is sitting in a way that is not okay for a princess, and Krivol would scold her for being so improper, but she really wants to go out. He stops her, saying that her underwear can be seen if she sits like that, which she embarrassingly agrees to. After this, Tagami decides to create a motor for a gearbox or something like that, and so Volet, despite not understanding anything, offers him help if he needs it, while he thinks about making a go-kart as a vehicle for now, and wishes for these fun and peaceful days to continue since he likes to use his abilities like this. However, later in the evening, reports reaches the palace that one of the villages of powerless people is being currently destroyed. Somewhere in Fonklank, in a village of the powerless, a merchant goes there to collect some things he wanted, and as he gets them, he finds a lot of the villagers killed brutally by beheadings and stabbings through swords, which makes him drop down to the ground in fear and disgust. Those who survived claimed that they were faced with soldiers who claimed to be from Gazette and killed everyone who did not sided with them. When this news reached the palace, a lot of agents were sent out to look into this, while most of the nobles of the palace contacted their own powerless people villages which they controlled to see if they are all right, and this set a very sad mood in the palace. As Tagami moves around worried, he reaches the buggy he needs, arranged by Volet, to go and check up on Sun back at the village, and so he thanks Volet, who quickly tells him to go for Sun, while the Dark God Squad also joins him. They leave in full speed, and on the way, Tagami wonders if it was Shinha's orders to his soldiers to invade powerless villages and kill them. They then reach the village, and in Dr. Pavel Zashel's house, they decide that taking Sun to the capital city now would be good, even though it is a bit early, and Zashel asks Tagami about his opinion on this matter. Tagami states that he does not really get it, but he knows that Gazette will never do something like this, to which Zashel agrees, saying that their king is not someone who would do this, as this is just not good if he really wants the powerless people to come to Gazette. He explains another situation that these soldiers might actually be from Gazette, but ordered by someone else from over there, which made them do this, though that now blood has been spilled of one side, this situation has become serious. They agree to stay in contact and protect different villages, and so start to leave immediately as they have to take action quick. So Tagami asks Sun if she is ready, which she is, and gives Zashel the failed experiments from the time he created the sacred treasure that give more defense and strong attack for some time, which Zashel appreciates him doing. As Zashel gives one to Plasha, Tagami makes a cheeky comment about them going for a pair look, but they both quickly question him about what he means, which makes him changes his attitude, saying that it seemed nice. Sun is then given a bow and arrow by Aunt Bahana, who recently taught her how to shoot it, which Sun now learned properly, and this surprises Tagami. Sun explains that she wanted to be useful, but it is not like she can hit anything with it, which Tagami hesitatingly accepts as he does not want her to fight. But he also does not want to force her into doing what he wants. He takes the bow from her and uses his divine arts to improve the abilities of the bow, as it is just a regular one, and chooses to increase the accuracy of the bow. He asks Sun how she feels to hold it now, so she decides to test it out by shooting at something, and settles on hitting a fruit on a plant that has been growing outside the house. As she draws and aims the bow and arrow, she gets nervous about it as she has not even hit a tree before, much less a fruit so small, but she suddenly feels that the bow is much more stable now and prepares to shoot as she gets focused. She gets ready, and her eyes locked onto the target, shoots at the fruit, which she perfectly manages to hit into the tree ahead. Everyone gets surprised, Sun on her ability that she actually hit, and Bahana on Tagami's ability that improved the bow so much, which he claims did not do much, but Shade and Fonk realize that to be able to make a new soldier good enough to fire a small fruit in the middle of the night when it is dark is very impressive, and he can make amazing archers out of soldiers at the palace, admitting they see why Gazette wants him. They exchange some final words about being always on the lookout even if they are surrounded by security, and to contact each other if one of them needs help, with Zashel telling him to protect Sun properly, which Tagami understands. As Zashel decides to go back to his home, the villagers ask him if he will not be going to the town, to which he replies saying that he is retired now, so he has no business there anymore, but thinks to himself that if King Esphobus were to come and personally beg for him to come, he might go. When they reach the capital Sank Adiot, they find everyone running around in panic after one of the powerless village was destroyed by Gazette soldiers, and then they all are greeted by Hividir outside of the palace, who asks Tagami about if he was visiting the powerless villages too. Tagami confirms it and asks a question in return about where Hividir is going, who replies saying that he is also going to check up on one of the Vos house's controlled villages, which makes Tagami confused as he thinks everyone would be asleep right now. But Hividir tells him that they have agents of their own sent to villages to keep an eye out. He will go and talk to them. Hividir starts to leave in a hurry, but his cape gets pulled by Tagami, who stops him to give his cape a healing effect just in case something bad actually happens. This surprises Hividir as Tagami gives him this present as a good luck charm, and then they all go their separate ways for the day, with deciding upon what to do from here on out. Sun and Tagami enter the palace to live in the same room Volet has prepared for Sun, who has been coming here often, which she corrects to this just being her third time, and Tagami is happy that she is adjusting to this place. They reach the door of the room, and then Tagami says her goodbye for the night, as they will be sleeping in different rooms for now. Sun and him both cheerfully say goodnight to each other with loving looks on their faces. The next day, Tagami walks down the palace hall to be met with Volet and Sun, who is in a very beautiful dress, which makes even Tagami wonder what this is all about. Volet asks if he is going into town now, which Tagami tells her that he is, and greets Sun good morning with questioning if Volet was dragging her around the palace. Sun seems all embarrassed about the dress she is wearing while she tries to hold a conversation with them, when Volet tells Tagami that she is now going to see Sun's skill with the bow, but Sun informs her that has just learned how to aim and shoot it. Tagami is fine with that, but he asks Sun if she will really shoot a bow in such a dress, which Volet denies as she made Sun wear that dress for Tagami to look at, which makes Sun shy, but she is also worried about her chest being too open in this dress she wears. Tagami cheerily thinks to himself about how cute Sun looks embarrassed when Volet reminds him of the materials he needed for the gearbox he was going to make, and informs him about a shop in the middle-class area that sells such items that might be useful to him, and since only he knows what he is talking about, he should go and look at them himself. He agrees that he would know what they are for when he touches them, as his ability can tell him about objects that are already shaped to look like something, but cannot say anything about objects that are just in their natural form. They all then go to their jobs, now with Volet looking forward to see the go-carry Tagami mentioned, and Sun greeting him a good day ahead. Tagami then reaches the marketplace in the middle-level area that Volet mentioned, but wonders if this is it since the shop design is unique. He enters greeting the shopkeeper, but is surprised to find Solzak there, who is equally as surprised, since Solzak previously mentioned that he runs an item shop. But since the underground area has been closed off, he is now working on materials, and also because his wallet was way too empty, which he is embarrassed to tell. Closely looking at the materials he finds, Tagami praises that the iron is actually of quality and asks Solzak if he is very skilled with using Earth Divine Arts, who claims to be a very skilled Earth Dive Arts user, but even if there are better than him, Tagami will not be able to find them here. Listening to this, Tagami tells him that he will be back, and Solzak happily sends him off with a friendly wave. Meanwhile, in a training village in Gazette, King Shinha gets to know from his people that there is a secret plan happening in Fonclank, as the day after Gazette's army went to the village that got supposedly killed by them, only a single person returned from there who claimed to have been attacked by Fonclank's army who were going to the border to cross into Blue Garden, and so a secret plan is possible. Shinha thinks that by destroying the powerless people village by themselves, Fonclank may be planning on keeping the powerless people from ever going to Gazette by using their name as trouble, but knowing how King Svobis is, he would never do such a thing, as even after winning the war in Blue Garden, he simply wanted Zashel to return home without asking for anything else. Shinha decides that he needs more information for now and decides to leave the military in his workers' hands, as he takes this matter seriously. The worker tells him that most of the spies are out to capture Nascence, so he should wait, but is shocked to see Shinha going on his own, who boldly claims that he will be gone for a while, with his huge sword resting on his shoulders. Tagami comes back to the shop where Solzak works and offers him a job to be a civilian engineer in the Dark God Squad, and that he will be working on a bunch of materials for him, which surprises Solzak as he did not expect to be working as a government agent. Tagami tells him that he is working on something right now and need good quality iron for it, as his own ability is not good enough to create stuff, which Solzak excitedly accepts since he gets to work with not just any random squad of the government, but the famous Dark God Squad. Seeing his happiness, Tagami offers him a contract, though shocked at his excitement. Flashbacks to Tagami asking Volet about how to get a civil engineer for himself, which she tells him that he only needs to hire him as a member of the Dark God Squad, and if the person wants to, they can join, which surprises Tagami seeing how easy it is. Volet makes a comment about how he has the most famous Dark God Squad under him, but still only has 5 members, though that is not an issue since she created this team for her personally, which annoys Tagami. Volet tells him that this is a good chance to explain him about everything, but warns him that a lot of people want to join his squad, with many after his unique creations, and so he can but carefully invite them into his squad, which Tagami understands. Meanwhile, Sun hears to this conversation, sipping on her drink. Tagami shows his gearbox, which Solzak sees and gets impressed by seeing how this device has many gear wheels that turn to change the gears. Tagami adds that it can also turn the other way, but he does not have much idea about how that works, and thinks to himself that he never really tried making other things instead of plastic models and radio stuff, but his use of tricks make it move on its own, and that is a weird thing. Solzak understands and decides to give a lot of his time to figure it out. Tagami then finishes off the conversation by saying that he wishes to create a vehicle that is as fast as the buggy he uses, which excites Solzak even more as he appreciates this wonderful idea. As he walks down the road, Tagami sees a bunch of powerless workers moving about freely when he notices Ifoka on the side, carrying heavy stuff, but is not paying attention, which might be dangerous. So he calls out to her, but she gets shocked instead as she turns around to see Tagami and hardly forms a sentence to tell him that she was just carrying items to eat. When Tagami offers to carry that heavy load, Ifoka rejects weirdly, so he takes a couple of moments to stare at her closely, making Ifoka more tense every second, when he finally is able to tell that she is hiding something since she is acting weird. Though he got too close, and with the standard flirting pose he did unknowingly, some people see them and wonder if the hero is having an affair with a little girl when he is always seen with the princess, which he immediately rejects by shouting at them. As they reach Ifoka's house, she apologizes to him, saying that she was surprised before so could not tell him, but he asks her to first enter the house since people might misunderstand again. They greet her mom, who is surprised to see Ifoka's captain there, as he tells her that he was only helping with carrying the heavy items. As he is about to leave, he hears someone call his name and recognizes the voice, which was Shinha's, as he calmly makes a comment about how easy it is to enter this country, while Tagami pushes him and asks him why is he here. Tagami says that these actions of Shinha are not like that of a king's, but Shinha says that this does not matter to him. Ifoka realizes that wind artists cannot feel the presence of powerless people. Tagami calms down and asks him what he is doing in Ifoka's house, so he replies that he thought she would not give him to the authorities, which makes Tagami look at Ifoka in annoyance as she tries to get her story straight all nervously. Tagami understands what she is trying to say, which surprises Shinha, but Tagami accidentally calls himself a gamer, which Shinha thinks is just another power of the evil god. Tagami figures that Shinha is here because of the issues related to Gazette about how the powerless people were attacked by them, so he wonders if not all of Gazette is under Shinha's control. Shinha tells him that almost all of it is his, but there are people who disagree with him, however they will never do something like that. Shinha tells Tagami that he is also here to discuss the fact that one of Gazette's team got attacked by Fonclank's army, but he knows King Esphobus will never do something like that, which Tagami agrees to, and adds that it is also worrying why those said attackers were going to Blue Garden. Shinha makes a comment that Rish can never do that as she does not have what it takes like a man, which Tagami nervously agrees to, while Ifoka thinks about dinner as they both are not leaving. Suddenly, the Blue Garden spy Rifold pops up at Ifoka's house completely undetected, which shocks Ifoka as she could not sense him. Tagami gets annoyed by weird people suddenly appearing, while Rifold happily greets him as it has been a while, and Shinha makes an ironic comment about how Tagami knows lots of unusual people, and Tagami looks at him with a "really?" look. Rifold gives them information that a large army under Gazette's name are moving towards one of the Vos houses in their land, which Tagami and Shinha immediately get alerted by as Tagami remembers Hividir going to one of those houses. Rifold says that he tried contacting the private agents of Vos at the houses, but no one responded as they might have been interfered with, and now the Dark God Squad needs to take care of them. Tagami asks if this is Volet's order, but Rifold tells him that the king directly gave him this order since the princess does not know, as he points to the door from which Vormal and Fonk come out surprised that the captain was there after all. They immediately leave for the army, but the situation in the buggy is awkward as Shinha, an enemy in the previous battle, is sitting there with them, so Vormal tries to raise a question, but both Tagami and Shinha say that it is best not to think about it. Tagami gets annoyed as Shinha is the last person to be talking about thinking, and commands him to settle this matter quickly, to which Shinha responds that he does not give him commands. In front of them on the road, they notice a fire artist's aura on a horse and speed up to get to him, and find out that it is Hividir lying unconscious as they see using a fireball. They get the horse to stop and wake Hividir up, who is injured all over, but gains sense to ask and recognize Tagami if he is here to help. Tagami asks him what happened, to which Hividir tells him angrily that they were attacked by soldiers dressed as the Gazette army, and they smartly blocked the doors to the private agents' houses to split him from all of his men, and the wind artists who were searching for these enemies were the first to go down. But when the enemies did show up, they looked powerless at first, but suddenly used fire divine arts to attack, which helps Tagami figure out that they were just dressed up as powerless, which Hividir confirms as they look like powerless, but their auras are different, like Shinha as he calls him out with a tense voice. While Tagami tries to introduce Shinha to Hividir, he gets cut off by Shinha, who explains that he understands Hividir's position right now, that he escaped with injuries, but all his men died. Hividir tells him that he is right, as his men protected him until he got away. So Tagami asks Ifoka if she knows what is going on up ahead, but she says she can only feel a little disturbance since it is really far away, but that means that the fight is still going on. Hividir shouts a command to save his servants before they all end up dead, and so they quickly go for it. They reach close enough to see a fire in the distance, as the place has been set on fire, when Ifoka notices people in the forest next to them fighting, and so Shinha jumps ahead saying he can take care of them, while they all should just go ahead. Tagami follows him as he gives the charge to Vormal and tells them to run if it gets too much for them. Shade asks Tagami as he runs away about what he will do, but Vormal stops him saying that they have their orders, and so they should just move on to the village. He tries to see if Hividir can still help them, given his injuries, which Hividir tells them that he can since he is so prideful. Shinha confirms with Tagami if he should have really left his teammates behind since they do not look like they can fight really well, as they walk through a dark forest, but Tagami corrects him that he trusts them enough to be able to hold off on their own, and Hividir being there is a great help. However, if Shinha really cares, he should not have jumped on his own. Shinha praises Tagami's thinking of even using an injured person if needed, but Tagami again corrects him saying that Aisha has already healed Hividir and he needs to fight as he is an agent of the government. Shinha calls it a wise decision and they both forwards together to fight of the enemy. As the two of them walk through the dark and old forest together, they notice something coming their way and quickly dodge the attack, though it surprises them, which looked like a fireball sent by a fire divine arts user. Shinha notices a shadow in the distance who seems like a girl running away from being chased by someone, so Tagami figures that it was just a random shot that came their way. The girl sprints as fast she can, running out of breath, but keeps going in her maid outfit, which causes her to trip on the mushy ground of the forest as she looked back to see if she was still being chased and falls down flat on her face. As she is trying to get up quickly, 3 more fireballs fly towards her through the tall trees of the forest, which she does not notice. But as soon as the fireballs come very close, Tagami jumps in front of her and creates an earth wall to protect the two of them as the fireballs hit the wall and vanish, while Tagami uses his cape for extra cover. Tagami gets relieved as it was a close call to save the maid servant from that fireball attack, but the maid first asks him who is he, to which he responds saying that he is Tagami of the Dark God Squad, and asks her if she is one of Hividir's servants. She says yes and asks Tagami if the little master is okay, so Tagami tells her that he is, but gets confused to see her calling Hividir a little master. Shinha sits in behind them, staring at the dark forest, keeping a lookout for more attacks, when Tagami tells him that he needs to get back to the highway and join the help that is his Dark God Squad, and asks if Shinha can find out where the enemy is, but Shinha denies, saying that it is too dark to see here, as they both sit thinking about their next plan of action. Tagami realizes that it is too risky of a situation to make a move right now, since they cannot see or know where the enemy is, when the maidservant informs them that the head butler and many other people are still in the nearby area. But Tagami suddenly notices a bright light like a fireball coming towards them, as he has his back against a tree, so he first tries to get the maidservant down and cover her. But as the fireball comes way too close to them, Shinha jumps in front of them, telling them to stay down, and swings his giant sword and destroys the fireball. Then he jumps high and uses the trees as his footings to move around the dark forest really quickly, and using the light from the fireballs that are coming towards his way, finds the enemy and smiles as he finally finds out where they were hiding. As Shinha is flying towards them with such a fast speed, Tagami screams at him saying that he should not just go and kill of them, which Shinha knows, and he tells him that he will leave just one enemy for him, while slashing the enemies on half as blood flies all over the place due to his big swings of the giant sword. After taking care of the first bunch of the enemies, he notices a few more in the bushes behind and jumps towards them with an evil smile on his face and with so much speed that the enemy Solider standing behind the bush did not even realize that his hand got cut in half until he actually knew that Shinha was coming towards them. The soldiers scream very loudly as he is in so much pain of his hand being cut in half, so he tries to run away, but Shinha notices and quickly kicks him in the back of his armor, making the soldier fall, while Tagami worries if Shinha is going too far with them. Tagami tells him that the soldiers might now be dead, but Shinha denies, saying that he left him alive, but Tagami is still annoyed at him since he might not be able to identify the soldier after such a beating. Tagami calls Shinha a peerless person, someone who has no match for him in terms of being a great warrior, which Shinha never knew was a word but starts to smile as he likes the word. Tagami wonders if Shinha is smiling because of my being called peerless, but decides to ignore it and gets back on the main issue, which is to get back on the road. Tagami asks them to get over to the village quickly and even meet up with the help, which is the Dark God Squad, on the way to the village. Shinha asks Tagami about what to do with a soldier that he knocked out, so Tagami tells him to let the soldier hold Shinha's great sword as he customized it to have a healing ability which will not let him die. Shinha first argues that why does Tagami want Shinha to give his great sword to a bunch of cheaters who work to make Gazette and the White Clan look bad, but Tagami instantly tells him that he can turn the sword back into a regular old sword, so that forces Shinha to agree to giving his sword to the dying soldier. They then finally reach the village to see it all burn down to ashes, with only remains left of buildings and black smoke flying all over the place, with the ground burnt as well. The maid runs towards the mansion of Vos that is still burning with bright white flames all over it, which makes her sad and the other two shocked to see this situation. Vormal notices Shinha, Tagami, and the maid coming, so he calls out to them as all of them are using buckets to throw water at the burning building and completely put out the fire. Tagami asks Vormal the current situation, which he tells is that when the village was attacked, the remaining villagers hid in the Vos mansion, but now that it is being burned with such big flames, they cannot check up on them as they are too far inside the almost burnt to ashes building. Shade worryingly says that the fire is too strong to be put out using water buckets, and they do not have enough water artists with them to help put out the fire faster. Tagami asks Hividir about the exact spot where the villagers might be hiding, which Hividir tells is probably the room that is in the center of the first floor of the mansion, and even confirms with Lithacy, the maid that Shinha and Tagami found. She confirms it, saying that they all are in the hall that is underground but only half a floor. Tagami understands the situation and readies himself to help, but tells Hividir that he just might destroy the entire mansion, which Hividir is fine with and happily gives a go-ahead since he knows that Tagami can instantly build it all up again. Tagami smiles at him and moves towards the strongly burning fire, with smoke covering him all around, while his Dark God Squad looks at him and wonders what he is doing, with Falk calling to him one last time before he starts his work. As Tagami reaches near the wall of the mansions, he starts up his divine arts, but is unable to touch the walls due to them being hot because of the fire, and his ability requires him to touch something to change it. He then does something else to counter the fire and ends up removing the entire house with only the room left with the people who were hiding. Everyone is happy and praises Tagami for his work, who is relieved his plan was successful, but tells everyone that the fire is still burning, so be careful. One of the army members call to Tagami that they found a body of one of the enemies, and as they reach the body, Shinha recognizes it as a person from the Drawn Sword Reconnaissance Party Company, even though the body is burnt all the way. While everyone thinks that it was really Gazette, Shinha explains to everyone that 5 days ago, his company that was sent to check up on powerless villagers, they were attacked by people that dressed as Von Clank's army, and neither it was someone from Blue Garden, which means that there is a third party involved who left one Gazette soldier alive to tell them the news of this. Tagami figures that the third party wants Fonclank and Gazette to fight each other, and so took one of the deads from company and placed his body here so that it may look like Gazette attacked Fonclank. Shinha wonders if they even attacked near Blue Garden due to land issue, or they had another goal on mind. Fonk summarizes that it is just a third-party crime and no one they know did it, which Tagami agrees to and asks Shinha if they were wanting to take care of this quietly. Shinha agrees, but wonders that some people might not understand and join in this panic. Hividir wonders who might be powerful enough to pull off something like this. Tagami cancels out Isupnar's remaining forces as they are not enough in numbers, but one of them figures it might be someone else that can be using those people to do these acts. Shinha names Nascence as they are the second major power here, and their capital city is the oldest in Calcio, also where the faith of the four gods started. Plus, they are the first targets of the White Clan. Fonk shouts in anger over how they are fighting against Fonclank when the White Clan is targeting them, so Shinha tells him that their army is weak, so they are trying to tire them first. He makes a comment on divine artists fighting all the time, so Tagami should come to Gazette where they take care of their soldiers, but Tagami instantly denies, screaming. Hividir being injured caused the meetings with Blue Garden to be delayed by King Esphobus, but since Tagami saved him, the nobles start to like him. Volet put since King Esphobus sent the Dark God Squad to mission without asking her, but quickly changes the subject to the powerless warrior that came to the capital. Tagami flatly tells her that it is King Shinha himself, so Krival instantly starts running to plan an attack on him, but Volet stops him so that a war does not start. Volet asks Tagami if she can meet him, so Tagami tells her that he is at Ifoka's place. Krival tries to stop her from sneaking out, but she says she will do it anyways. Tagami then decides to use the underground path to get Shinha to meet Volet if she wants, which Shinha agrees to instantly upon asking, though this gets Tagami a little annoyed. As Tagami, Solzak, and Shinha move around the underground, Tagami asks him about a new entrance being opened up here and if Solzak has anything to do with it, which he denies, saying he was busy with the gearbox. Considering how dangerous the underground can be due to dangerous activities, Tagami is glad to have left Volet underneath the palace, but Shinha is surprised to see them tall about royalty so normally. They discuss how this can be a good hideout, but Tagami rejects the idea as they reach the wall that has the palace behind it. Tagami uses his ability to create a tunnel in it, and they follow the path and find Volet at the end of it, waiting for them with a small army. As Shinha and Volet come face to face, despite the size difference, she talks to him with confidence when they both introduce each other, and that she only wanted to meet him to just see for her own eyes. She then makes sure that she will not hand over Tagami to Gazette, but Shinha asks for confirmation that whether she can handle the evil god that he is, while Tagami tries to shut him up. She hits him saying that she already knew he is the evil god as Sun told her, but when he confronts Sun, he accidentally touches her chest, which makes both of them embarrassed, and Volet uses this as an example that the evil god is of no worries so Shinha can give up. Tagami, confused, tells Shinha that he did not respond well, so he tells him that he is not good with girls like Volet and Rish. Tagami thinks how a queen as lovely as her can be like Volet, but Shinha says that she was like this when she was younger. Hearing this, Volet tells them that the meeting with Blue Garden will be postponed, but Shinha advises them to not delay it since Rish, the queen, has a lot of power right now. Volet comments on that with confidence that would it not be a problem for Gazette if Blue Garden and Fonclank join forces, but he confidently replies that they'll manage. On the way back, Tagami asks Shinha if he will really fight Fonclank later on, but he says only if it's needed and brings up the evil god's nature being similar, which makes Tagami wonder how much he knows about the evil god to be speaking so confidently, and he needs to learn it as well. Tagami then asks Shinha about what will happen if he was to be captured here, but he just brushes it off, saying that a new king will take his place and lead the people. Tagami understands that Shinha is not a king at heart, as he has much to say, but cannot do to his job as the leader, and always says things like destruction and life are just a cycle, so what he would be like if he was not limited. They then greet each other goodbye with a smile. Meanwhile, Vormist, the old commander of Blue Garden's fire troop, speaks about how annoying the Dark God Squad is to him, as now they even worked with the king of Gazette himself help them to fight off their armies.